Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order. Although it's not on the agenda, we're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, so please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible. Okay, thank you. Okay, we're just going to have one item on the agenda. So all conversations, when we have conversation on that agenda item, will be there. Anything else? If anybody wants to speak about anything else, that'll be after we're done with that item and under the public comments. So right now, the discussion will be focused on, a lot of you are speaking, on the McKinley Grade Separation Project. And I will ask Mr. Nelson to do a presentation for us.
Good afternoon, Council, and glad to have you back so we can talk about this topic, and we got to make a decision on this today. So if I can start my presentation, please. Okay, we met in November, and this is a follow-up to that meeting. And during that meeting, we were asked to do a couple things. And one of them is we're getting some concerns about what is this product new or what's going on with it and how come we're talking about it now. This product has been in the works for many years. And in fact, it was well before 2007. 2007, we knew there's a problem out there. McKinley is one of our busiest, it is in fact our busiest location within the city. There's more than 50,000 cars that travel through that location every day. That's our average daily traffic count. And so it's been that bad for a long time. So before 2007, we knew there's a problem out there. We had prepared a product study report that said, we have a problem there. We know it's a grade separation out there, railroad crossings. And so at that time, we came back with 4 alternatives to a study session for the council to consider. And during that time, we selected 2 alternatives that we thought would be the most appropriate to pursue. And so that was a great idea at the time, but there was no money to do that. And we knew these at the time was going to cost anywhere from $60 to $80 million. And so until we had money to do that, it really couldn't go too far. But then in 2015, we did get some money from Caltrans to help keep the job moving along, and that would help us in the concept phase of it. And we had matching funds from WRCOG to help move that. And because this project is so important, it was one of the priorities for the state. In fact, it's number 6 on 56 grade crossings in the state. And the reason it gets on this list is because number of criteria it has to comply with. One is a safety issue, one is the vehicle history out there, it's the speed, the crossing delays, how long the arm's going to be down. This is a problem across the state for many crossings, but this location is significant enough. It was justified as getting number 6 in the entire state. And so what happened in April of 2017, the legislature came up with some money for this project. And so SB 132 was passed, and they allocated $84.4 million for the McKinley grade separation. And that's when we started meeting again. So in June 28th, we had a study session to talk about our options. And at that time, like I said, in 2007, we'd had some options out there. We thought the grade crossing for the railroad over the road was about $65 million, and then the alternative of the road over the tracks was probably around $50 million. But we had to review that data again. And so we did that at the June 28th study session. We talked about the 2 options out there. We didn't know exactly what they might cost, but we thought $84 million might be close to what we really needed out there. So at that study session, we were asked to do a couple things by the council because we weren't sure what they would cost. They said, well, we need to get that firmed up. So we selected option 3, and option 3 at the time was to put an RFP out, have somebody come in there and tell us what our options are, these 2, or if there's another third alternative is better, and then also meet with BNSF and get confirmation what they would require for a grade separation project, either tracks over road or road over tracks. It took us an unusually long time to get that meeting with BNSF, though. And it was because there had to be several agencies involved. We had Caltrans involved with that. We had RCTC involved with that, and the city involved with it, and the right players at BNSF. They did accommodate our meeting finally. It was a very productive meeting. It's very cordial. BNSF supported the project. They support the concept. They want a grade separation as well as anybody does. And so they were very helpful and provided some very clear guidelines of what we needed to do to make this project work. It was a bit of a surprise, though. This was a key location for them. And when they pointed out all the different issues that we had to deal with, it did change, if we had to raise the tracks over the road, the impact of that would be. And so that's what we talked about when we came back in November. So we came back in November and we hired a consultant to evaluate the options and try to update the cost. So we had to know what these would really cost to do that. So they looked at option one, was taking the road over the tracks, and they did not know what we had budgeted. They didn't even know about the SB 132 monies. And they came back and they said it's going to cost about $84 million to do this. They were surprised that we had acquired just $84.4 million from the state to pay for the project. And then option two is after we implemented all of the BNSF instructions, that project now costs about $200 million. And I went over why that was necessary in our meeting in November. But because the cost is so substantial, it's far more money than we'll have, it's not even practical any longer. That option is no longer feasible. We just don't have the money to do that. So we're at a point now, either we build the road over the tracks or we don't do anything at all at this time and we release the money. But at that study session, council directed us to come back to this study session and provide an economic analysis for the businesses that are going to be impacted by this project. And so that's what we did. So the first thing we did was we looked at all the properties in this area, and this is both residential and commercial properties. And we said, how much property tax are they paying, and how much of this comes to the city? So there's two columns here. You see how much they actually pay in property tax, which is just $237 million a year they pay in property tax. Of that, $412,000 comes to the city every year. Then we also looked at sales tax. So all the businesses in the area, they generate sales tax, and how much of that comes to the city? So for one fiscal year, that's just about $600,000. So we're looking at the economic impact of the businesses and residents in this area. They generate just about $1 million a year to the city. So where are we today? Right now, we're looking at the railroad over the tracks is over $200 million to build. As I mentioned, that's not feasible. We don't have the money for it. That option is not even worth pursuing at this time, because even if we wanted to do that, the $84 million wouldn't be sufficient to do it, and the timeline that we have to use the $84 million, we couldn't make that happen. So if that's what we choose to do, that's not going to happen with this money. We'd have to return the money. So if we do decide to move with the road over the tracks, that cost we thought was going to be about $84 million. But there's some questions about that estimate that came up last time. And it seems like, well, that didn't seem like it was everything. And that was a valid point. It did miss some crucial items. And one of them was the goodwill loss estimate. And this is businesses that may not be directly impacted as a take, but it's going to affect the business, and there's going to be a loss of business. So we hired a consultant whose expertise is in this field. And she came out with a cost range, and this is for budgetary purposes only, of about $11 to $16 million of what it would cost just to compensate the business for the impact this project would have on our business. So that means our total project cost now to proceed is approximately $100 million. Now we compare that with all the money we have allocated at this time with the SB 132 money, and that's just about $90 million. So it would appear that we're about $10 million short of what we may need to build this project. But I really want to emphasize this is still a concept. In fact, this concept is what was approved in 2007. We had to have a concept to move forward, and this is what we share with everybody. I've heard from a number of design consultants who want to submit a proposal on this, and they believe they can come up with some alternatives that might be more cost-effective. They just need a chance to do that. So when I say our budget right now is about $100 million, that is an estimate, and it may be less than that. It could fluctuate from that. We also prepared an exhibit, a 3D exhibit, to show what this would look like with this concept. And this is on our city website right now. We have two views of it, and so we have one looking to the north, and this is a 3D video that actually zeroes in on a little bit. You can actually pause it though. And so this is a shot before you start zooming into it. But you can see all the local businesses as they stand now, and it gives you an idea what the bridge would look like when it's completed. And then from the other side, the same thing, looking south from this direction. And again, this was just a concept. There's no design details in this, so if somebody looks at something in particular and said, well, why does it look like that here? Again, as a concept, it's just trying to convey what it would look like overall. I need to talk again why we're having this conversation in the first place. The McKinley grade separation, as I said, the McKinley corridor is one of the busiest locations within the city. It is the busiest, with 50,000 cars a day. But we have a problem with trains there already, and it's only going to get worse. So we know right now that we have about 70 trains coming through there about every day. And by 2035, that's going to increase to about 137 trains coming through there every day on a regular basis. And not only that, the length of the trains is going to get longer. And as the length of the trains gets longer, it means that the gate down is going to take longer. It's going to be down longer, and as it's down longer, more and more cars pile up. So this screen shows that right now the gate is down around 105 minutes every day, total duration. But by 2035, it's going to be down for 261 minutes every day. And while that gate's down, all the cars stop through that corridor. And as it stops, they start backing up. And that's one of the consequences we're concerned about. And that's one reason this is so high on the priority list of grade crossings. And then we can't forget the most critical part of this is a safety issue. We've had a number of fatalities there very recently. And this is a dangerous location. And so that's one reason a grade crossing is bumped up on the list as well. We have to deal with the safety issue. We just can't have people hurt or killed out there any longer. So we need to do something. So we're here today to come up with an option. Option one is we got to build the road over the tracks, and we have some money to do that. And if we do that, I need to move fast. The money that we got from SB 132 has a deadline of 2023 to get the project done. We've already lost about 8 months on that schedule. And so if we do this, I need to make a decision. We need to make a decision soon. We need to get the design started right away, and we need to start the whole project going very quickly. SB 132 did stipulate that they're going to try to fast track it, so we're going to have support from Caltrans, from the state, from our other agencies to do everything they can to expedite this as fast as possible. However, if we decide not to do this, we need to make that decision today as well, because we need to release that money. And the $84.4 million can be reallocated to another project so it can meet that 2023 deadline. If we release that money, then it also means we're going to have to release the Transportation Development Act state funds, which is about $2.4 million, and then also the TUMF obligation, which is about 1.5. That would also be released back to TUMF to be reallocated for another project. And with that, that concludes my presentation, but I have one more thing I want to show. We had a train pass on Saturday. It took about 10 minutes for this freight train to pass through. And we have a video showing the traffic, what happens during that 10-minute period. And what this video takes actually 16 minutes. So we're showing as the train starts, the duration of the train's there, and then how long it takes to recover for traffic. And I'm going to defer to Dennis, who can explain what's going on with the video.
Thank you. Before we start the video, I want to kind of give you guys sort of a look at what we're actually looking at here. In the top left quadrant of the video, that's our traffic camera over there at McKinley and Promenade. It's pointed towards the freeway, so it's pointed south. So as the gates come down and traffic starts to back up, you'll see that traffic later on and towards the end of the video actually back up and creep towards Promenade. On the top right is actually at the grade crossing itself. So you'll actually see the train travel through here. On the bottom left, this is our McKinley Griffin camera. You'll notice it looks a little different than the rest. This camera is streaming online 24/7, so it's in a different video system. But when we put this video together, we wanted to sync these all together. So you'll notice that this video will start a moment after the other three. And this is obviously looking at the Costco shopping center. You can see the main exit coming out of the shopping center on the right side of that video. On the bottom right is McKinley and Magnolia. This is on the south side of the intersection, kind of looking northwesterly. So the railroad tracks are kind of off to the right, that street that's just in view there. And so as we play this video, which if you can start now, Cynthia, what we're going to kind of do is sync up that bottom left video with the other three. So I'll make sure you see that start first. And you can see the train has already started to pass at Sampson. This train was 174 cars long. This video was captured from this past Saturday. It started at about 12:15 in the afternoon, so this is during our lunch rush on a weekend. As Nelson mentioned, the train lasts about 10 minutes. This is not normal. I mean, I would say our average freight trains are more in the 3 to 4 minute range. So this is certainly a longer duration train than typical. But as Nelson points out, this could become more frequent and even potentially more longer. And so as this video goes on, about 5 minutes after the gates come down, you'll see that traffic starts to back up on McKinley in both directions. What you'll notice first is that traffic will come to a standstill on the bottom right-hand screen at McKinley and Magnolia. In fact, there it is. And shortly thereafter, you'll start to see that traffic will back up at the McKinley-Griffin intersection, and that will start here in a moment. So when traffic backs up like this, all the turning movements that are trying to move in that direction are stuck. So although it's not visible in the field of view, the left turns on Magnolia, trying to make that left to get that direction. You're going to see maybe 1 or 2 cars. You're going to see some people get frustrated and block the intersection. Some will make U-turns and go around. You see at McKinley and Griffin, people are blocking the intersection. And so you're going to start to see some very abnormal and definitely unsafe driver behavior as people start to get frustrated with the lack of movement of cars. You'll notice the train is still going on over there on the top right at McKinley and Sampson. So Promenade on the top left, we don't have traffic's still moving. We still have some capacity, but that stop of cars is progressing back towards Promenade. Now as the train finally completes its path through the intersection, the gates come up, and we start going through a process where we start clearing McKinley. We actually have some special timing in there where we actually favor McKinley. If you've ever been there with a long train, you'll notice if you're on Sampson, even after the gates come up, it still takes a long time before you actually get a green. And we do that on purpose, specifically to try to flush the traffic on McKinley and get traffic flowing again because of the impacts it has both to the north and to the south. So you can see as the bottom left, the traffic at Griffin's beginning to flow again. But you'll notice here in a moment on the top left, the camera at Promenade, the traffic is still, even though the gates have gone up, the slowdown that occurred is still propagating back towards Promenade. In fact, this is about as bad as we start to see it, where especially that right turn pocket as those cars are trying to get in the Costco shopping center are waiting to clear that queue. So in this video that lasts a good 16 minutes that we're showing you, this is, by the way, 4 times speed. So this, for every second we're viewing, this is 4 seconds out in real life. And so it took about a good 6 minutes for traffic to sort of return to its normal patterns of progression through that corridor. And that pretty much concludes my comments on this, and you'll see as traffic begins to just return to normal there at Promenade here in a moment. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Yeah, and today I have the team here. So Ryan here's to help us out with any questions they might have about the property tax and the sales tax. We also have Dennis here from our traffic team, and then we have Linda Bosby. She's the product manager on behalf of the McKinley Grade Separation Project. So we're here to answer any questions from the public and the council. Thank you.
Dennis, when you were doing that, it didn't show any backup. Is there backup onto the freeway when that does that?
Yes, the off-ramps definitely back up. The eastbound off-ramp in particular, as cars try to make, especially their right turns coming off of that off-ramp, would be stopped by the traffic on McKinley. On the westbound side, you've got the ramp that kind of shoos off to the north. That wouldn't be impacted, of course. But the one for McKinley South, that would also experience a backup. And we've had noticed in past extreme conditions where those off-ramps have backed up and actually queued up onto the main line on the 91.
Nelson, can you go to slide 10 or have someone go to slide 10? So on this slide, if I'm looking at the quadrant where it would connect in from McKinley over to Sampson, I believe you said this is the design that was about in 2007. Is that correct?
That's correct. We gave 4 options to the council to consider, and this was one of the most desirable options. This one and trying to raise the tracks over the road.
Okay, but again, it was 2007.
When that concept was considered, yes.
Okay, can you go one more slide? So on this one, as we progress forward, if we go looking at other designs, we're not stuck with that 2007 design. And this illustration here just takes off of that 2007 design to fit in on a scenario, but it could actually be modified. Those buildings that we're looking at there on the mall could actually be pushed back possibly or reconfigured. Is that correct?
Correct, and the alignment of the road could be adjusted slightly. The concept of the bridge itself over the tracks, that's probably going to be pretty standard, but where it actually drops down and how it connects to the existing properties, that could be modified in the design phase.
And then also on the other side where we have the Carl's Jr., right now we have a right in that takes you into that complex. So we could also find out through the design team whether it'd be possible to keep a right in.
Yes, in fact, this concept shows that there's a right in there. So if you look in the upper left corner, it's a dedicated right turn pocket in there. That concept could still be incorporated into any design we come up with.
Okay, and I think this is an important piece because I know when I'm looking at the designs and when I saw the video, there's a tendency to lock in and fixate that that might be the design. So I'm glad to hear, and I appreciate you answering my questions. So we know there is flexibility here, and we can see if one's still available or if modification's available. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Can you go back to the slide just before that that shows the, nope, I'm sorry, the one that was showing before, there we go. What is the height of the bridge at its highest point? I assume the highest point is at the trains?
At the trains, and we have on that a clearance of 24 feet. So the bottom of the structure is 24 feet high. The depth of the structure itself, we have a concept on that. It could be 6 feet, but we don't know. That'll be determined during the design phase. So you're looking at probably about 30 feet high to the top of the road, or approximately that range.
So that's the highest point. Do you know what it would be at around Sampson?
Sampson itself would be probably closer to about 28, 26 feet. At that location, as you get closer to the front of the car wash, it'll come down to around 20 feet, 18 feet.
Okay. Because there's a lot of rumors as far as the height, and just want to make sure that it's not 40 feet even at the highest point.
No, not
Okay.
likely. Again, this is still a concept, but
Right,
the concept's
right.
going to show pretty much what the bridge is going to look like.
Right, but these are done with what we have to legally provide both for the train and what we would want to have over Sampson. So that's what these heights took into account, correct?
Yes, sir.
So that's the maximum we are required to give for the train.
For clearance, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And then I don't remember the slide number, the one with the sales tax.
That's right. I'm sorry.
So it says here about $600,000 per year for sales tax. And does this take into account all of the retail on both sides that I was just discussing, the Carl's Jr. and that whole clustering, as well as the other side where the Shell station is and the Chuck E. Cheese and all that? as well as on the other side of the railroad tracks, the one where we have the Food for Less, and then we have the other facility on the opposite side.
It did take into consideration all three of those areas.
And what about the area across from the Food for Less, or is that the county?
That is county and it was not taken into consideration.
That's the county. Okay, but it does take into, all three are taken into account, and that's what comprises the $600,000 per year, at least for that 1 year, all sales tax.
Correct.
All right, thank you, appreciate it.
And just to follow up, since that slide's there. So we're talking 70 businesses, but we're not talking 70 businesses that would ever be contemplated to be relocated, correct? That's just a wide area for that area.
There are 70 businesses that we looked at. 66 of those 70 businesses are sales tax producing businesses.
But those may be affected from sales going up or down, ingress or egress being easier or harder, but not all of those would necessarily be displaced.
That is correct.
Okay.
Probably should have, like, most of them would not be displaced.
When we did the design, and when you're talking now, how much do we involve the businesses that are there?
During the design phase, extensively. In fact, we've learned, like, from the Auto Center Grade Separation Project, as we were designing that, we worked with all the property owners to minimize the amount of take in there. We also made sure access to the business was accessible as possible, and also visibility. And so they are very much incorporated in the design phase of the work. We'd be doing the same thing here. Once we had the design team on board, they would come up with some concepts, and before they got too far along and firmed anything up, they'd be reaching out to the business owners and convey those concepts to them and tell them what the impact's going to be, and try to work with them to minimize that impact as much as possible.
That's critical because that in the few that I have spoken to is they were concerned that they hadn't been encouraged to participate or been allowed to, and I just wanted to make sure. That's because we're taking the 10-year-old project, 11-year-old, and we haven't really made the design yet. That was just a,
This is very preliminary right now. This is
Preliminary.
a concept. It's almost inappropriate to even talk to the businesses yet of anything serious because we don't have a true design yet. When we get a design team on board and they start firming up the numbers, they're going to come up with probably the most cost-effective way to make this happen, and that's when they'll start pushing the property.
okay, there's cost-effective, I totally agree, but we also need to make it as least damaging as possible.
That's cost-effective would be
why-
like also the least costly to build as far as taking property away. We don't want to do that if we don't have to.
Okay,
We have to save as many properties as possible.
because I've been shown some ideas of how we could save some of those businesses. But this was showing these pictures. In that, go back to the one with the picture of the completed project that's kind of plopped down. Because this is showing some of the businesses that are still there. I'm not sure if that's really going to happen that way.
Actually, most of the businesses will be there. There are a few structures that will have to be removed for this particular concept. For most any structure, any product we build, there will be some property takes. It's just we can't get away around that. But we want to come up with a concept that will minimize the number of property takes and see if we can save as many of these as possible.
And how affected is most of the, I want to use the word damage, done at the centers closest to the freeway, or is the Food for Less and the ones back there also having some challenges with,
The Food for Less complex,
yes,
yeah, this one has the part of the bridge has to extend into that, so that will impact some of the businesses in there as
it's
well.
hard to tell in this picture.
From this picture, you're right. From this one, they're far enough back there, you can see the ramp in the far corner. And this will be on the upper left side. You can see a ramp coming from
Oh, I see
McKinney
it.
down into it. And that'll impact some of the businesses as far as their view. And also, it might take a building or two. I was just out there. We may have to take a structure to make that happen. Again, this is a concept, though. They might come up with something that might be even more feasible.
And we will be open to having, if there's other, say there's a business there that wants to show a different concept, that we will be open to having them show those and talk about the feasibility or non-feasibility.
Certainly. A design team will definitely be open to ideas like that because if we can minimize the property take on that And it definitely saves the community itself, our business community. But it also has to be economically feasible. If we wanted to build like a bridge above all the structures themselves, that may not be financially feasible, although we could probably do it. But that's not necessarily the best way to do it. But we do everything we can to save all the businesses.
And then there's an awful lot of cement walls. Are we going to do anything for aesthetics, or what's going to happen with that?
Yeah, and we can actually stipulate that in the contract for the design phase. And we'd probably mimic it, something similar to what we did on the 91 Freeway and Cajalco Road. So we kind of have a consistent theme. And if you wanted something different, we can talk about that too.
This is where I'd like to definitely include the business owners into that decision.
Good, that's a great idea.
Anybody else? Mr. Haley?
Yep. Nelson, if we could stay with that slide. From what you said, this is the beauty about having a study session, because I had never seen this before, and I like it. This is looking south, obviously, and on McKinley. So if a person wanted to go into that shopping center where the car wash is and the auto center, if I could use that word, auto repair places and Carl's Jr. and Taco Bell, et cetera, you can still access that.
Right, from this concept you can't tell, but the one before this,
Do it.
sorry, maybe I went the wrong way. This concept right here.
There you go.
This one, if you look in the upper left side,
Right?
you can see where the ramp from the 91 freeway comes off. There's a dedicated right turn pocket that takes you into that business complex.
Got it.
That concept can be kept for just about any concept we do here. And so it is feasible that we can still maintain access from McKinley into that business, even with this grade separation.
Okay, good. Just to carry this step on just a little bit further. So if you're at Costco, for instance, and you wanted to go to get your car washed, you can just drive south on McKinley, stay in the far right-hand lane, pull in, drive by Taco Bell, and you're there.
Correct. And
Thank
then
you.
when it's time to leave, if you want to go back, you come back on Sampson, and you take the U over to McKinley.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
And Nelson, just because I like to see you flip the slides, could you go back to the previous one? You're wondering which previous one? That's fine. So I notice in this one and the one that follows it, there really are no pylon signs shown. I did see one on the previous one that had a Carl's Jr., but you really don't see any pylon signs. So that's something that we could certainly do in order to help these businesses be identified for their location and so forth as we move forward and get their input as to what their needs are in that respect, correct?
Correct. That'd probably be one of the costs we'd have to take into account when we come up with the goodwill loss, and we negotiate compensation to pay for such a sign.
Okay, thank you.
Well, it's going to be signs and some permitting.
That, again, we include when we compensate them for.
One more time. Not to beat a dead horse, let's talk about the, oh, my mind just went blank, the barbecue place, the steakhouse.
Outback?
Outback, thank you very much. I don't believe Outback has a large pylon sign now.
No, they do not.
Is that correct?
No, I don't believe they do, no.
Okay, so actually, if this were to go forward, we could put in a pylon sign so they would get more advertising and more notoriety.
We would probably negotiate with them to pay them for the erection of a sign. So rather than build the sign on their behalf, we'd give them the money to build the sign they want to build.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay. We have an awful lot of speakers. I took these in order as they were given to me, so I don't want to have any complaining. So I had no control over the order that they were given. We're going to please try and be as cordial. Let's not do any booing and hissing and any of the other stuff that let's just try and get people to have the opportunity to share, express their concerns. And we're going to begin. And I'd like you to line up against the wall. I'll just call 2 or 3 people at a time so that we can make this as quick as possible. The alternative would be reduced time for everybody, but I think we want to give everybody the opportunity to speak. Okay, we're going to begin with Bradley Pierce, followed by Kevin Emenaker, and then Charles Frizzell.
Good afternoon, I'm Brad Pierce. I'm an attorney from Fullerton. My address is on my speaker card. I represent property owners and public agencies in eminent domain and inverse condemnation actions. I represent one or more of the property owners potentially impacted by the project. Excuse me. One of the things that we wanted to come talk to you about today is these potential impacts to these businesses that may not be in the footprint of the project. As part of considering the costs associated with the project, there's already a gap between the state and federal funding sources and what the city is going to have to come up with for the project. One of the things that the city's budgeting doesn't necessarily include are these adverse effects to some of the properties that are not in the footprint, as well as some of the damages to the remainder parcels for properties that are acquired. So for example, the Magnolia Grade Separation Project around the corner, I was involved in that one, and one of the properties alone, it resulted in costs in excess of 7 figures more than Riverside was planning, and this property wasn't even slated for acquisition for the project. When you raise the road above the properties, you end up with a variety of unintended consequences. So there's dust, noise, debris, different things that impact the properties, not just during the 24 months or whatever the construction period is, but also in the after condition, right? We have the loss of visibility, we have loss of circulation. Some of these properties end up being impulse buys, things like that. You mentioned the car wash. Frequently, these quick serve car washes are impulse buys. So you need to see them as you drive by. Hey, I can go get my car washed there. So when the city is considering this project, one of the things that you need to consider is that although the goodwill estimate is great and there's a good analysis possibly, I don't know what that analysis is, but there's possibly a good analysis for these expenses associated. These plans include what is in the footprint of the project. And I can tell you from experience working both sides of the road that these impacts are also felt by properties and businesses that are not in the footprint. And those properties and businesses will seek just compensation. That just compensation isn't going to come from the state or federal funding sources. That's just compensation is going to come from the city. So as you're considering the project at all, or considering which one of the alternatives to go with the project, you should make sure that you're considering these additional costs. Like I say, there's one parcel alone on that Magnolia Grade Separation Project was over 7 figures, and that one wasn't part of the project. So while I almost never see any goodwill analysis in pre-project budgeting, so I credit you for looking at that, I think that that's, woefully inadequate. You could have that from just a couple of your businesses that are actually in the footprint. So when you take a look at the properties outside, consider those other impacts.
Hey, we're going to have to really be strict. Time's up.
And the cost that you will have to pay for those properties. Thank you.
Sorry, we got almost 40 people. Sorry if you're one of the last ones.
I'll be quick. My name is Kevin Emenaker, and I'm with Alvord Unified School District, and I'm here to speak on this project on behalf of the safety that this project brings to the area. There was a slide earlier that talked about fatalities, and so we have had students that were impacted with that fatality. And we have approximately 19,000 students in our district. I'm not sure how many Corona Norco Unified has, but I think they're up there, 40,000 students. And so I do ask that the city do consider this in their, they are looking at this project. It's not very often. As another agency, we receive grant funding for a project of this size, and I would hate to see that go to another area when we do need this project. Thank you.
Thank you. So Charles, then Fred Bush, Wahid Karas, and then Irina Vasilian.
Good afternoon. My name is Charles Shawn. I'm a senior property manager for Shop One Centers REIT. I thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. Shop One Centers REIT purchased McKinley Crossroads Shopping Center on 9/8/17. Since purchasing, we have begun marketing the shopping center in hopes of attracting new merchants to fill the vacant shop space. We have also begun to improve the physical attributes of the property that have been neglected by the previous owner. We have upgraded the landscape, common areas, resurfaced the parking lot, upgraded the exterior lighting to brighter LEDs, fixtures, and repainting the entire length of the storefronts. In addition, we have repaired existing pylon sign reader board to full normal operations. In addition, we have leased almost 5,000 square feet since September, with the latest lease to a high-quality retailer named Court Furniture that will open in the summer. The center now stands at 85% leased, and we have good momentum going forward. Regarding the project, Shop One Centers REIT would ask for consideration for the following. Shop One would strongly recommend alternative 1 of the 9/26/17 study session report elevating both McKinley Street and Sampson Ave to keep access from McKinley and Sampson virtually unchanged. Unfortunately, I've joined this process late. The alternate that has been presented as unfeasible due to several factors, including the relocation of Sampson Avenue slightly southward and flood control channel issues. With that, our second recommended alternative would have been the elevated railroad tracks. As the discussion this evening is to review alternative 2, elevated railroad tracks versus elevated McKinley Street with direct connection to Sampson Ave. We strongly voice our strong support of the elevated rail option. However, should the council so move to proceed with elevated McKinley Street, we would like to see more study done with the input of impacted property owners in the form of a workshop to determine the best design for access to and from McKinley. The hook design is problematic as it will likely create substantial additional movements for motorists trying to access the area. We believe consumers will find it inconvenient and will choose to avoid the area in favor of Norco or other more hassle-free districts. Shop One Centers purchased McKinley Crossroads Shopping Center because of the location in Corona, California marketplace. We studied this investment carefully for several months. We would ask that the city truly take time to find a workable solution for all who have invested in the city of Corona and avoid racing to a decision over funding concerns. Doing nothing is better than proceeding with an ill-conceived design with an impact much greater than the current train wait time. We believe in the shopping center, we believe in a market, and we will work with the city of Corona to help any improvements to the regional infrastructure. A success for the city and Shop One and the other surrounding property owners. Please work with us. Thank you for your attention.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you,
That was
Teresa.
perfect. Okay, Fred Bush, Wahid, and Irina.
Hello, I'm a property owner on Sampson. I've been in Corona since '86. In '86, I thought Corona was a bear. I had no idea it was a city. Came here, started on Blaine Street, I actually started on south of the railroad. If you look south, all those buildings, I rented a building there. From there, I bought a building on Blaine off Main Street in '88, '92. Bought a building on Sampson. And at that time, the whole city of Corona was pretty much in recession. Every building was for sale, was empty. In 2010, I bought another building on Radio Road. Now with this thing going in, I don't know how we're going to have any access. I still don't understand when you come off the freeway, if you're going to have access to Sampson. I know there's access to Carl's Jr. and maybe the car wash, from what you guys have said, but no idea how anybody's going to get to my building on Sampson or my building on Radio Road without going over this thing. We rely on a steady flow of traffic for our business. Been here since '88, and now I feel you guys are trying to put us out of business. I mean, for me, I would be really happy if, of course, the thing went over the railroad, not over the road. That's what I'd like to see happen. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Wahid Karas. I'm the owner of Popeye's Chicken. We recently opened in August. We spent close to $1 million to build the business. The way how we see things going down, we're definitely going to close down. There's $1 million losses here. We open in August. We'll never be notified there is such a project going in. Otherwise, we'll never be open. So, and assuming we are in the county of Riverside, but we carry Corona address, and based on the gentleman calculation, he completely ignored this complex, which is have Arco and some other business, also business owner are here presenting. We are going to close down. What do you think was the right things to do for us? You mentioned earlier there is 50,000 car traffic going on in McKinley. Instead of us directing this 50,000 traffic to the business, everybody benefit from it. No, we're building a bridge, we're killing all the business. Okay, what's gonna happen when I leave, Food for Less leave, and every other business will close down? Okay, are we gonna have a homeless problem? Are we gonna have drug addiction problem there? What we turning the complex over there in this area, what's gonna be? What's gonna happen? Okay, now across the other side where you have all the nicest home, Costco and all the other businesses, how are they gonna feel that I'm having danger on the other side? Are we going to be a San Bernardino downtown? Are we gonna be something similar to that where we have a huge problem? What's the right thing to do? As a business owner, we're a fighter, okay? We go through a recession, we get up, we go back again, and we build businesses, and we try to bring the economy up. Now, are you bringing me down? We're a fighter. We're gonna stay, we're gonna try to stay alive, we're gonna do everything in our power to keep the business going. And most of the business owners, all of them, actually, they recommend going with a track over the road, which is the right things to do. We're gonna pretty much, we have about 20, 25 employees, might be not too much for a lot of you, but most of them are residents of the city of Corona. They're gonna let go, we're closing. We're gonna lose our life. You're pretty much destroying our life. What we're gonna do when we spend $1 million to build a business? Where is this money coming from? From loan, from banks. Okay, how are we gonna give them the money? There is no such compensation for us. We're a county of Riverside. We're not even in a map for you guys. So at this point, I hope I read the message, and I hope you guys take anything in consideration. We're gonna do everything in our power to stay alive. Thank you.
Thank you. Just before you talk, one comment that wasn't addressed on the railroad track, when you had that meeting with BNSF, there was a particular alarming statement that was made that I want you to explain, and that was the long-term, indefinite, you want to explain that, Daryl?
In the discussions with BNSF, and this was part of actually a pretty good meeting that was fairly collaborative in terms of design concepts that they were presenting, but an ongoing concern for the city of Corona was their requirement that the city be responsible for the superstructure that was to be lifting the train up and over. And that would not only just be the maintenance of the facility on a day-to-day basis in terms of graffiti and all that kind of stuff, but should the structure ever fail and there was a business interruption component, it would literally drive the city into bankruptcy. If there were an earthquake and that structure failed and the trains didn't run for 30 days, the amounts of dollars could be into the billions. And that was always a fear for us, and we couldn't figure out. We also had Caltrans and RCTC at the table. We couldn't get them to engage in any concept of risk sharing or indemnification for the city, and it just seemed like a pretty large pill for the city to have to swallow.
So we're looking at the over $200 million to build it, and then the long-term liability, and that was one of the key pieces that we have great concern about. Okay, we have Irena, then we have Alan Agan, Chris Vasilian, David Vasilian.
Mr. Talbert, that's a flat-out lie. We spoke to BNSF this morning, and they said it's all negotiable. And they said, we spoke to the new project manager, and they said that they would be happy to come to a city council meeting, but they have not been invited to attend. So, for the record. So, my name is Irena Vasilian. I am owner of Quickies Quality Car Wash. We've owned the car wash on McKinley and Sampson for over 8 years. When we purchased it, it was a failing car wash. Through sweat and sacrifice, we built it into a successful business. We took a huge risk 8 years ago. We leveraged our house, our life savings, our kids' college, all to start a business in the so-called business-friendly city of Corona. According to your plans presented today, you are not condemning our property through eminent domain, but you are building a massive structure right in front of our property, and you're diverting all traffic, maybe not all, maybe 90% of the traffic, above us, and you're taking away our visibility and accessibility. A car wash cannot survive without visibility and accessibility. In essence, you are condemning our property, but without compensation. This is a hostile takeover. This is not the American way. This is not the moral way. Your decision is going to have long-lasting, devastating consequences for business owners, landlords, employees, and their families. Your fancy renderings here today on the projection screen and on paper are highly misleading, because in reality, once this monstrosity is built, the surrounding area becomes a desolate area. Businesses close, it gets marked by graffiti, and it becomes a magnet for the homeless. I have plenty of pictures here which I'd like to submit for the record of the Magnolia Bridge showing what happened once the massive bridge was built. Yes, you alleviated traffic, but you killed the businesses and you killed the community, and it is now a ghost town. Next, I'd like to address the costs for this Great Wall that seems to be pushed by Nelson Nelson and his staff. I believe the numbers are highly coincidental and suspicious. Do you have any idea what our car wash is worth, Mr. Nelson? No? So 16.
You need to direct the conversation.
So do you have any idea what our car wash is worth?
This
You're not
is
going to respond. Okay.
no.
So you've estimated $16.5 million for loss of goodwill. You're easily in the hundreds of millions of dollars by the time you factor in all of the businesses involved. You can't look at old land values. You have to look at fair market business values. This is not an ordinary grade separation. There's a lot of businesses affected by this. Mr. Talbert, when the costs do go up, when this is completely out of budget, who's going to be liable for the excess cost? Can he not answer?
Your time's up.
Okay.
Sorry.
Hello, I'm Alan Egan. My parents own the auto repair shops over on Sampson. During the first meeting, the conclusion was that you guys were going to issue an RFP to get more design proposals. And you guys also were saying how things need to move quickly. So in the second meeting, Councilmember Montanez expressed, this is the minutes, expressed his disappointment that creative alternatives were not explored or presented, as was concluded in the first meeting. Also, Vice Mayor Spiegel expressed her disappointment that alternatives were not provided. And it says here, Daryl Talbert stated going out for design alternatives will never come back with a design that will make everyone happy, so doing so will result in a loss of valuable time. So nearly a year later, we're still talking about losing time and we still don't have alternative design proposals, but I'm glad to hear that we are open to it now. Speaking on the topic of BNSF, they recently, 4 days ago, they came out, Berkshire Hathaway, the company that owns them, came out with a statement from Warren Buffett that said they have $116 billion in cash that they can't find any companies to buy. He, quote, "Our smiles will broaden when we have deployed Berkshire's liquid excess funds. This extraordinary liquidity earns only a pittance. Right now, in treasury bills, they're getting $6 million per day in interest earning." So we went to them with questions on if they could help, with this project. They came up with a bunch of demands that doubled the price of the railroad construction. And then in response, we asked them what they can contribute. I understand maybe they'll say no, but we can ask. And I think it's time that we start pushing back against them if they're going to have all these needs and then they're going to say you have to pay 100 years maintenance. And if there's a collapse, then you're going to have to pay billions of dollars. Him and Warren Buffett have as much money as the state of California. I mean, it's their railroad. They're making money off of this when it's going through the city. And if it's not going to slow down and they're going to be able to push all those more trains that you listed in 2035, then they have an interest in it. You said The railroad wants the grade separation also. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Vasilian, David Vasilian, Rick Fries, and Rich Rogers.
Hello, my name is Chris Vasilian. I'm a senior in high school, and my parents own Cookies Quality Car Wash. I'm here today to speak against the bridge being constructed. First off, my parents didn't ask me to come here today, and actually didn't even want me to know about the issues they are facing. But after overhearing a conversation, I felt so strongly about this topic that I decided to voice my thoughts. I feel I offer a different perspective from others that have spoken because I have insight on the pain and fear that I witness in my family and others alike from the consequences of this construction. I have grown up admiring my dad for his hard work and aspire to take over the family business. However, after seeing a city and a country that is supposed to support entrepreneurship, ignore the risk takers, and disregard those affected by this building, it has made me reconsider pursuing my own dreams and fear that this precedent will impede my progress in the future. Although the road over track option at first seemed like a winning solution, it does not account for the suffering and loss placed on hundreds of businesses and families. There are other solutions that provide less consequences and more modern engineering in our advancing world, such as the rail over road option. Building a solid concrete wall in the middle of a public center is not in line with our progress and development. It is primitive, uncreative, and an eyesore, destroying this beautiful center. If you thought traffic was bad, imagine a vital street being shut down for at least 2 years. The components to any good solution are minimizing downside and enhancing the solution at hand. The Great Wall meets neither of these. So, I ask you to look beyond the biased presentation the city staff has shown you and consider all the consequences and downsides that they have failed to consider. Please, don't forget the people that your job is supposed to help and protect. Building this bridge is turning your back on the American dream and those who have helped you build up this city in the first place. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is David Vasilian. I own the car wash at Sampson and McKinley. We are not opposed to improving the traffic at the intersection, but the road over the tracks option will cause us to close, like it did the car wash on the Magnolia grade separation just 1 mile away. Also, the area residents don't want it. Assembly member Cervantes' office has received countless calls opposing this thing. I'd like to know about the KZAB engineer who came up with these costs. It was 84 million last month or last study session. Now it's 100 million. So who's going to make up the difference? And then the 24 million for the road costs. He didn't ask any property owners anything about their business and their income. I mean, and then adding to the 100 million. So you said last time you were going to add the maintenance cost for 100 years for the road over the tracks estimate. Well, where is that? How about the 30-year tax loss? On the June 28th study session, again, you voted for alternative options. And when Nelson was asked by Council Montanez, where are those alternative options we voted for? Mr. Nelson says, well, we ran out of time. After 5 months, you ran out of time. You couldn't do two things. So where are the alternative options? At the last study session, Mr. Talbert also said that they would provide design alignments at Promenade and Buchanan. Where are they? Why do you vote for things and say you're going to do things and you don't do it? We're here waiting for your presentation. Okay, next thing, BNSF. I picked up the phone and I got a hold of him right away. The manager of public projects, her name is Tiara Adams. She picked up right away. I just looked on the internet, for God's sakes, just this morning. She said she would come down. She says she's willing to work with the city on anything they can do. The 100-year maintenance and indefinite liability is non-mandatory requirement, and everything is negotiable. She says she's willing to work the city's $84 million budget. She says she's willing to meet with the city staff and business owners if the city invites her. She said she's willing to come to the study session and answer questions if the city invites her. She said she is not has been not invited. I propose that the city set up at least 2 public meetings with her, and I will help do that for you if you give me a chance. I have her phone number. It's 909-386-4474. Her email is tiara.adams@bnsf.com. If the city does not take this opportunity to have the open public discussions with BNSF, with businesses and the community involved to get all the facts from BNSF, it will be clear and it will be exposed to the city, and the city council has a hidden agenda to destroy the blocks of local businesses and the community for KPC's own development gain.
Thank you. Rick Fries, Rich Robert, and Jeff Mueller.
Good afternoon. Rick Fries. I am the attorney for Carlos Padilla and his family. They own CPI Properties, which is the owner of the Los Arcos Plaza and the McKinley Executive Center. 2 of the properties that are going to be drastically impacted by this project. It's really lovely that the city has the chance to get these funds, but it's resulted in a very broken planning process. You've been rushed. Mr. Nelson told you you must make a decision tonight. Normally a project like this, that's this impactful, has years of study. Typically there's an elaborate environmental study that looks at the alternatives, looks at the impacts to the property owners. None of that's been done. You've been rushed. And this is real. These are real people. These are their livelihoods. They're not going to be fixed by having a pylon sign put up 2 or 3 years after construction. These businesses are going to be long out of business before you put up a pylon sign. It's not going to protect them. So, yes, it's lovely that you've got this opportunity for money, but you're not taking care of your constituents. You're not studying this. You're not planning it well enough to make sure they're taken care of. And at the end of the day, the city's going to be the insurer on this. You're being offered $84 million. Your own estimates back in June of this project were $97 million before you got the estimate of the $16.5 million of lost goodwill. I promise those numbers are going to be a lot bigger. Your real estate estimates are based on old data, old values. Your real estate number is going to be higher. Your business number is going to be higher. The city's going to be on the hook for tens of millions of dollars. You're going to be insuring this project. You need to not be rushed through it. Yes, it's unfortunate that might fall behind. It might take longer. But the city shouldn't put itself on the hook just because it's being rushed like this. Again, these are people's lives. You're being rushed too much. That's why we have planning processes. Slow down. Say, okay, we're not going to take this money. The money will come back. The money always comes back. But slow down. Take care of these people. Do it right. Do it thoughtfully. And do proper planning. And I mean, you're grasping on things like the risk that the bridge will fall down and the trains will be stopped. If we have an earthquake big enough to take down a modern bridge to stop the trains, you've got all kinds of problems beyond the trains being stopped. And you're going to own the bridge either way. If you put it over the tracks, and it's a bridge over the tracks, you're going to have the same problems as if the bridge falls down with the train on it. You've got those liabilities. That's not a reason to rush this forward. So again, please slow down. Wait for the next funding cycle and do this right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council members. My name is Rich Rogers. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Transportation Concepts. We've been operating the Corona Cruiser and the Dollar Ride service for about 19 years now. And we're supportive of this project, whichever option goes, but a couple of things that affect us are safety and timeliness. We operate through that intersection about 700 times a month. We have to stop at every railroad crossing because it's a state law. That puts an effect on us relative to safety, rear-end collisions, trying to negotiate back into traffic. It makes it very challenging. On the efficiency side, we have all of our Corona Cruisers are on a fixed route and they're timed, they're on timetables. So we try to maintain a schedule. When we're affected by the trains as they come in now, we're averaging 7 to 9 minute delays. So that affects the overall performance of the service. So from our perspective, it's a safety and timeliness issue, and we're definitely supportive of it. Thank you.
Jeff Mueller, Christy Hench, followed by Linda Hoffman.
Hello, my name is Dr. Jeffrey Mueller. I'm a family practitioner with a practice here in Corona for almost 29 years. I've also lived off of McKinley and attended business meetings in the area and have experienced the traffic many times. I believe the McKinley Bridge should have been built years ago. I hear traffic complaints daily from my patients, and many times it has been difficult for them to endure the excessive waiting time to reach facilities for tests and consultations crucial to their medical workup. I think that facilitating this project is in the best interest of the general public, and hopefully you'll realize the same and will help to facilitate the project as soon as possible. From listening today, I'm also encouraged that there should be consideration made for the people that are affected financially by this. But it seems to me also that with the waiting times increased in traffic and the situation that continues to get worse, that there's going to be less time for customers to be actually in the businesses while they're sitting more time on the freeways. And the question will be also how many of these customers are going to divert away from the area as the situation gets worse. So it seems that it is time for a solution. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Christy Hench, and I'm a proud employee of Monster Energy. I use Sampson Street to get to and from work, and I am very nervous about the safety issue there. During my travels, I get stopped by trains, yes. Is it an annoyance? Yes. But it's something that you just have to deal with. What I'm used to seeing is I've seen potential fatalities in, near misses with pedestrians and cars. Not only do pedestrians have difficulties there, but the cars are so impatient, they block the intersection. So once you do finally get past the gates, the train's gone, you're still sitting through light after light because the cars that can't just wait their turn. And that in itself causes potential fender benders, and access in and out of the shopping centers is just absolutely crazy. I would like to see something done so that everybody's commute is safer. If it can cut down on traffic, that's great. But I believe something does need to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Hoffman, Daryl Roth, and Wes Speak.
Good afternoon, City Council members. My name is Linda Hoffman. I represent Monster Energy Company. We moved over to Sampson and McKinley about 4 years ago. We were about 300 people. Now we're about 700. So we've really increased a lot. And I think Christy makes a good point with the safety issue. We have issues sometimes with employees. We need to call 911. It's very difficult for ambulances to get to our building because of the traffic buildup if there's a train. So we have the safety issues. We all know there's a problem on McKinley with the train. It's what can we do to get it fixed? I would invite the car wash people to come and talk to me because we have a captive audience there. We have 700 people that work there every day. We have visitors that come in from 7-Eleven, AM, PM, Coca-Cola. We bring a lot of business to this community, And we are very big supporters of Corona. We've been here almost 20 years, and we are more than happy to help the local businesses. We try to engage in local restaurants when we do catering. Wherever we can, we use a local Corona business. And we're happy to support this bridge project to make it safer for our staff to get to work, to make it easier for our guests to get to Corona, to visit to Corona, and to make it safer if we have emergencies with our personnel getting an ambulance to and from our building. But we are more than happy to help support some of the businesses, and I would invite them to contact me to see if we can work together to help their businesses. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Mayor Spiegel and Vice Mayor Montez and City Council. Thank you for having me. My name is Darrell Roth. I don't sleep in your city, but I pretty much live here. Most of my waking hours are spent at Corona. I do a lot of my shopping in Corona. And part of my trek to work every day is eastbound on the 91 freeway, and I exit to go south on McKinley. And I've seen it several times because people don't understand that the two right lanes exit. So the right lane, I've seen it actually back up onto the freeway several times. And to me, that's a public safety issue, but a bigger public safety issue that I haven't heard addressed today. And my heart goes out to all the businesses that are going to be impacted by this. And I do understand that as a previous business owner, that how that can affect you. But my bigger concern is public safety. And when first responders are trying to get to a baby not breathing on the other side of the train, either northbound or southbound, or an officer who's calling for immediate backup and he's taking rounds or he's in a bad situation, it's really important that first responders, law enforcement, and firefighters and paramedics have access to people on both sides of the tracks. And with the train going and tying up that intersection for long amounts of time, it surely makes it bad. You have just minutes sometimes when a baby's not breathing that can make a difference between life and death, and having to turn right and go westbound on Sampson and over at Radio, and then if the train's going westbound at the same time, you'd be trying to beat the train. I'm speaking as a public safety guy. I'm a former cop. It would just be a heinous thing to sit there waiting for a train to move while you have somebody who's in dire need. So thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Wes Speak, Danilo Kim, and Edward Kim.
Wes Speak, 2623 Toomey Lane. I don't think there's anybody here that thinks that their bridge should not be built. I think the question is, even though I think we prematurely wrote off option 2, I've spent a lot of time on this. I've talked to quite a few people, both in the construction field and did my share of research. And again, I'm not an engineer, but I found a bridge pretty close by that was very similar. It's the North Milliken Bridge, goes over Guasti, or goes by Guasti, and then I have a great photo here. That shows a bridge basically pretty similar. Nice looking bridge. Looks like it's pretty similar. There's a little bit of a dip there, but it's only because it has to meet grade with the freeway. And according to the California League of Cities and the Public Works Director at the City of Ontario, this bridge cost $47 million. All in, $47 million. In fact, the League of California Cities say that their costs actually they saw was 36. It came in under budget. This is UP, not BNSF, but I work with BNSF. They're one of my clients. They're very easy to deal with. I have a very good relationship there, as I think there are several folks at the city that do as well. And I think we've written off this option too quick. And I think Nelson makes a good point that yes, that 8 months have gone by, but I see that as a punishment to the businesses that 8 months has went by. That yes, the city did not hasn't progressed with this. They and I'm not blaming everybody at the city, but this has got to lay on someone's head. And I unfortunately see that it hitting the businesses there as being drastically unfair. We have some options. We don't have a lot of time. And this needs to get addressed. I think the 10 to 16 million, I don't have the number exactly correct, but $10 to $16 million difference. I saw the budget cuts. I've seen the numbers. We're $3.5 million from PD this year is going to be drastic. And then we have another $10 million we have to come up with to build this bridge. Do we want bridges or cops? Do we want to open up this option 2 again and take a look and make sure that it really is $200 million? Thank you.
Danilo Kim, Edward Kim, Steve Nolan.
Good afternoon. I'm Edward Kim. Danilo Kim will follow after me. I'm the property manager, as you know, for the shopping center, corner of McKinley and Magnolia, one with Food for Less supermarket. Today I saw half of the room is for the bridge over track because of the safety issue. I mean, safety issue, as long as you have a bridge over the McKinney, you can, avoid any, traffic issue, safety issue. So whether it's a rail over track or track over rail, safety issue will be, a non-issue here. I like to address for the economic impact on your budget. As I explained the last time, your estimate is very underestimated. You have about $24 million of right-of-way compensation plus $60 million of the goodwill loss. The center that I'm managing is $100,000 square feet building. We have 27 businesses, and the estimated cost of the property is around $30 million plus, not including any businesses. And if you include the goodwill of those businesses, I'm pretty sure, I don't have any estimate on that, but I'm pretty sure it'll be at least $15 to $20 million or more. So the property that I manage, I'm handling around at least $50 million property. And if you, city build a bridge over track, and having at least 20 feet or higher wall in front of the shopping center, even though you allowing us to have a ramp from the bridge, that's not going to solve anything. It'll be financially devastating to the property and business owners. Conservatively, if you estimate loss of income and loss of property value over 50%, you're talking about at least $25 million for that area only. So if you combine them with the rest of the area,
Thank you, Mr. Kim.
it'll be a lot more than $40 million that you estimated. So just wanted to point out the numbers.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Danilo Kim. I'm my father owns the shopping center that has the Food for Less. Edward Kim represents us. For the record, Mr. Nelson, I believe he mentioned he consulted with us business owners previously. That's just a crock of BS. My father, 27 businesses in there. Nobody, was ever consulted, let alone notified about today's agenda. Frankly speaking, I have no idea how we're actually even back here today after 2 meetings. This is our third session, judging from the number of orange shirts. Now I can clearly see why. Maybe we do have an agenda here, maybe even politically. The first couple of sessions, you have intently pleaded your cases for the project. You even brought Mr. Nelson, Big Business Railroad. You called all your so-called experts. You bring more big business, corporate heads here to make their case, all who are, clearly going to make a huge profit from this. And you've made it very clear with your votes previously. Very appreciated exactly where you stand. Let me get something straight. Every single meeting, you've heard nothing but overwhelming support from all and every local resident business here up until now. This is our third meeting now. The people have spoken, and local businesses, residents, overwhelmingly every meeting, but we're back here again for the same dog and pony show with the same fancy illustrations and PowerPoint. So, you guys are all city officials. I understand it's supposed to be your job to serve in our best interests of the people, the local community and residents, the ones who are paying all the local property taxes, funding your own personal salaries. If that's really the case, then why are we back here? Why are we trying to force feed this infeasible, impractical project that will cost local business owners not tens of millions, hundreds of millions? You're talking about our livelihoods here. And so for you to sit there and pretend like you care, I don't buy it. So give me a break, personally. With all due respect, I feel like you're just stringing us along here for these fancy shows, promising us more studies after another study. And where are they? Like another gentleman pointed out, with your own unverified studies with, I don't know who those sources are. So, I don't feel like
Thank
we've
you,
been sitting
Mr.
here
Kim.
patiently listening, but I don't think we want to play nice anymore. So we are going to coalesce. We're going to round up. We're going to put together our own money to fight, okay? And if that means making sure you guys aren't elected, next time we'll do that, okay? And that's starting. So this is not an attack, personally. It's not a threat. Call it what you want, but when you attack people's livelihoods,
Thank you very
this is
much,
real.
Mr. Kim.
Thank you.
Steve Nolan, followed by Lisa Padilla-Vaccaro, by Don Fuller.
That guy was pretty good. Daryl, you want to look at me, please? And by the way, let me start by saying, Nelson, correction, in 2007, we did not approve this. When I saw it, when I was on council, I told you guys if you even thought about taking those businesses, we'd throw you out on your ear. It was never considered. Okay, so let's get that straight. Also, something you might remind yourself of, doing a project like this, we did this on Foothill Parkway, right? I worked on it too with you. It blew it. Even with Kip on board, we blew it. We bought, take part ownership, I was around for part of it, by 50%, 22 million or something like that. And now you're hearing all this, there was no commercial involved in Foothill Parkway. You can't pull this off. Anyway, the reason I'm here, I have not been this pissed in a while. It's been a long time. And it made sense. I walked in here and I saw these orange shirts go, damn, we're really serious about this. Good job. No. Then I started asking some of those millennials in the back row, who are you? He couldn't tell me, wouldn't tell me. I finally saw the shirt on the back and realized who they were. It all came clear. It came clear. This is Chaudhry. This is Chaudhry. And you lie. I sat and met with you yesterday, Eugene. You lied through your teeth. I just didn't believe it. And Daryl, damn it, I wanted to believe you. You weren't that guy, but you finally did it. You all told me this had nothing to do with KPC. In 2004, when I came on that council, I sat in back closed session with Eugene, Karen, and Daryl on council, and you did this to somebody else. Another developer wanted to build here, and I had a letter in my hand from Dave Saunders and his client saying, if you don't sue me over here, I'll let you build here. And I looked at you guys and said, you know what, we are dirty. Does this happen all the time? And Karen, you said, no, I'm not dirty. I said, the hell, you're not dirty. Now, you're taking now you may want to say you can build over this thing and take these businesses. And Eugene, yeah, we have no budget issue. We can afford another 10 million. We always find it, right? That's what you said yesterday. You told me Padilla, they don't care. The hell they don't care. You said if we take Padilla's property, they get first right of refusal. We'll scrape it, But after we build everything, they get first right to get it back. You lying? No. This is eminent domain at its worst. This is why we lost redevelopment in this state. And I'm telling you right now, do what you want to do today, walk out of here, make any decision you want, but what that last kid said, he's right. And a side note to anyone here from Monster to Eugene, cry me a river about a little bit of traffic. Stop it. Try Green River one day. Anyway, back on track. You may make a decision to go forward with this, Mr. Haley, Mr. Scott, you as well. There's a ton of resources coming up to get you out of here. You won't see it through to completion. I promise you, but I make you one more promise. I promise you, you did this.
Thank you,
You
Mr. Nolan.
negotiated this by cell phones and Post-it notes, and I'm taking it to the DA myself. I'll kick his door down to show him, to make him look at this, because you know what?
Thank you.
Karen, yes, Mrs. Mayor, you are dirty this time, and you're not going to get away with it. You too, Daryl.
I'd like to request 12 minutes. Thank you.
Cute.
Alicia Vaccaro, resident of Corona. So first notes before I go into my spiel. So as far as what Nelson's referred to as McKinley being number 6 out of 56, that's incorrect. That was in 2014. I spoke to the California Public Utility Commission this morning, and further with Caltrans. We're not even on the list anymore. We've been off from 2016, 17, and 2018. So this McKinley separation grade is actually not a priority in the state. Somehow miraculously it is, and I'm sure Dr. Chaudhry has something to do with that. Also, with regards to the deaths and accidents on the railroad is technically responsible for that right now, not the city of Corona. Additionally, when they were saying that there's a difference between structures still being left on a piece of property versus a business still being in that structure and operating. Two complete animals. So in 1986, my parents decided to pool their money with their family members to purchase a property off McKinley with a hope and a dream. They leveraged everything to develop it in 1990, and they further built another office building in 2004 on that property. Now the city wants to condemn their hard work with just compensation. So what you're not including is just the income that just compensation is actually giving us. You can give me $10 for something that I have, but when I'm generating $5 every year from that, that's not just compensation. Taking that away, you're also taking away businesses that are in the same position that we are. We are not in favor of rail over car. We are in favor of train over car. Obviously, hearing in light of new information with BNSF, I'm taken back by that. Businesses will not be, they won't be wounded. They'll be non-existent. You can't make it through the construction phase. You can't make it through without accessibility. We all know that. To date, CPI has not been formally notified of a grade separation or an approach to it, which is least impactful to CPI properties. If condemnation on the part of City of Corona is for the benefit of public use and not for a private entity, the alignment off of Sampson must cause the least private injury to the property owner, and that would be CPI properties. We've not had any input on the design. We have been first shown this design by KPC and Dr. Chaudhry. When they said they wanted to purchase our property, we said it was not for sale. CPI was a founding developer in the city. We purchased this land and developed it before there was anything in this city. We have everything to lose in this, and there's only one thing to gain. Dr. Chaudhry wants his accessibility for his development. You will leave us with remnant portion of land that is undevelopable based on how you want to have your alignment. This alignment was not approved in 2007. This alignment had several different alignments provided by Kip, your public works, head of your public works department in 2011, which showed 4 to 5 different alignments. So you're not getting the correct information, and I'd gladly speak with you more on this, but my 12 minutes are up. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fuller, followed by Ahmed, and then Juanice, and then Miguel Serena. I apologize for butchering names. Partly I can't read them, let alone.
Don Fuller, you got my name right.
Thank you, Don.
725 Huntley Drive. It was said earlier they want to make this as least damaging as possible. I've heard exactly the same kind of statement from divorce lawyers. Mr. Nelson, I would say that your fatality accident chart is disingenuous. Some of the accidents on that chart go back to the early 80s. That's 35 years ago. Most of them are 16, 17 years old. And I think the records will show that most pedestrian fatalities at railroad crossings are actually suicides and not really accidents. You also showed a picture that shows what this will look like afterwards. And you show basically all the same businesses there. I would submit that it won't look like that when this is done because those businesses will have turned turtle and will no longer be there anymore. It'll be something else there. There's an issue here of legacy. And I have said this before, and this project, whatever happens, whichever way that bridge goes, it's going to be there when my great-grandchildren are as old as I am. And in the same way that people go down Main Street and look at those stupid curves in Main Street and look at pictures of what Main Street used to be and say, what was on their minds? 50, 75, 100 years from now, people are going to look at that and they're going to go, what was on their minds? And a person's legacy is dependent on what they do now. So what people think of me 100 years from now, my grandkids, I don't have anything to do with 100 years from now. That decision is made by what I do now. So that's what I'm living with my grandkids. Finally, I'm wondering what's behind this. When I first went to college, I went to Oklahoma State. The colors were orange and black. I don't figure any of you folks went to Oak State, did you? Don't reckon so. So I wonder how many of these folks here are citizens of Corona. And I wonder what you folks got besides the T-shirt and the limo ride. I wonder, was it a
Don,
coupon to Chick-fil-A?
Can we focus on the project?
Well, let's ask them. Did they get a coupon to Chick-fil-A?
Don, let's focus on
Did they get
people in the
Dodger
audience.
tickets?
Don,
I don't know. Did they get a $100 bill apiece? Because I'm telling you.
a little respect. Let's not attack
Okay.
the people in the audience.
But if it was a $100 bill apiece, I can go down to the ATM and buy 2 or 3 of them myself.
Don, we've had
So,
other sessions when people
That's all I'm
bring in-
wondering. I'm just wondering,
Thank you.
where's the money behind this? Thank you.
Thank you. Ahmad and Moniz and Miguel.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, Nanis Radwan, my wife, she's coming in. She's running late, the traffic, so
put it
if
up.
you could call her name a little bit later, please. My name is Ahmed Radwan. I'm the owner and the operator of McKinley Shell Car Wash in McKinley. I am one of the people been helping the city to call themselves Corona. was the first business at that street after some cow across the street. I have gone through a lot of difficulties from Caltran, from the city, from the road, and I remain surviving, and I stayed up, and I say the green days or the money days are coming one day, and I'll be able to make money at McKinley Shell. Sure enough, in the last 3 years, they were the best business. Is the gas station business. The margin on the gasoline is skyrocketing. We thank God, and we are making money right now. And this is the time when I said myself, it was worth it to struggle through McKinley all these years. And now I cannot believe what I'm hearing. That here I've been with the city of Corona for at least maybe 35 to 40 years. And now I've been kicked out, literally out of the city of Corona. How you brothers and sisters here do this to us? And there is other alternative that you could do. There is. I have spoken with several engineers, and they said, yes, there is ways they can do it, and they can save some of these businesses. I'm the first one. The arrow is going to hit my heart first, the first one. And right after that, Carlos Padilla and his family. There is other ways. If there is no other ways, and this is the safest way for you, I have no problem. Safety become first. But here, these politics. For the last 3 meetings, I have never seen this crowd. Where are they been coming from? Are they been purchased to come here and to represent the other side? I'm really shocked. I swear to God, I'm shocked. Where do they come from? Are they being purchased? Further, I believe you underestimate the goodwill of the business. I've been hearing 16 million. I wonder, is this only for McKinley Shell? If this is the case, where is Carlos Bedias? I want someone to speak about it, not on my time, to tell us what is 16 million goodwill. If this you're talking about just McKinley Shell, I'm for it. Go ahead and build the bridge. I'll take 16 million. But you need to think, because you are underestimating the businesses today, how much
Thank
they
you.
are worth.
Thank you.
But trust me on that. You are underestimating the business, how much they are worth today. You need to recalculate your numbers. Thank you.
Miguel, followed by Ginny Lumley and Joe Morgan.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Miguel Serna. I'm an employee for Quickies Quality Car Wash, and I've been there for about roughly 5 years. I've been there when he first started, and building into now how it became a big car wash. And like I said, this bridge is not going to be good, because think about just one business is not one. It's multiple businesses that you guys are going to destroy financially, and it's people's jobs that are in jeopardy. Okay, you're going to destroy multiple millions families. Businesses are going to go down. And, economy, we're trying to, like people said before, you guys are going to destroy not just one business, but our business. And, our families depend on us. So if we are out of a job, if it was easy to relocate, we'll do it. But like they said, where are we going to get the money to be able to relocate to a new facility or anything like that? Like they said before, there's more alternatives you guys have, and you guys never try to go those routes to be able to get them, okay? And for me, financially, this job has helped me. I started as an employer to a supervisor, hopefully move on to an assistant manager, or maybe one day, own the business, take it over from him, or maybe become a business owner myself. But if you guys are gonna put us through a situation where you guys wanna take our business and not give us, anything in return for it, just for a bridge, you guys can build anything, but you guys want to build like they said, like $84 million on a bridge, How do you, and my owner, my boss, he's given back to the community. He just doesn't keep it for himself. He goes out and donates to schools, the firefighters, everything that he can get, money he gets, he donates to the city of Corona, because the city of Corona is his. He built his car wash not for himself, to give back to the community. And if you guys are going to destroy multiple businesses, just think about the families you're going to hurt. Think about the people and the income you're going to hurt. Without the money, how are we going to pay our houses, our rent, our cars? We're not going to pay that without a job. If it was easier to go find a job, we'll go find one. But with this economy and how we're going now, it's going to be bad for us. And we won't find a house or find a job that's going to pay us right. Or move up like how I moved up. From an associate employer to a supervisor to one day, hopefully, the manager of the car wash. Okay? This car wash, in behalf of all my other employers, they wanted to be here today, but fortunately they can't. They're in school. And I'm going to school to become a law enforcement and, a business owner. And this car wash is helping me, go on to my succeed. And my owner is also helping me, pay for my school, my tuition, so I can be there and have an education and hopefully one day own his business or make my own.
Thank you, Miguel. Ginny, then Joe Morgan, and Alexis. Those are the last 3 cards I have, so if you're planning on speak, please get your cards in. Anybody who has not put a card in, I have 3 speakers left. Thank you, Ginny.
Okay, thank you for hearing me and letting me be here. I'm glad to see the turnout of the people that have been here to speak about this project. I am not a business owner. I am a resident. I live right off of McKinley and Magnolia, and I patronize the businesses from Food for Less all the way down to Walmart on both sides of McKinley, plus up and down Sampson. I feel that if you do the bridge over, that is going to obscure the businesses, no matter how tall of a sign you put up. It is going to take out businesses that I rely on and people in my community, and many people who don't even have cars, they walk to these businesses. They would be gone. I'm also concerned about just the value that it would place on my own house, that my house, I will lose the value of my house because I feel like the bridge over would be an eyesore, a big sign would be an eyesore, and again, just the huge chance of losing the businesses that I go to and the community that I live in goes to. While I do agree something needs to be done about the traffic and the safety, I would ask the council to please consider option 2 with the train going over the road. You're not obscuring the businesses, you're not losing businesses, you're taking care of the traffic, you're taking care of the safety issues, and the value of my home isn't going to go down. So please consider that option. I know when I looked online at the proposals, and I don't know if the numbers have changed since I last looked, the road over was 98 million and the train was 101 million. That's about 4 million difference. That's not a huge difference to do something to sort of correct a problem, but maybe cause more problems instead of doing the right thing for the community that would solve all the problems. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe Morgan, 2063 Ren. So we've learned a few things today. We learned that traffic is bad. I think that might have been a shock to everybody. And we learned that trains cause traffic. So that was useful. We also learned that money can buy support, which is also useful. I would just hope for your sake that the people in the orange shirts, and please spare me telling me what I can talk about because you just don't waste your breath. The people in the orange shirts, I hope they move to Corona so they can vote for you because you're going to need it. So, your economic analysis is laughable. Just because you could look at, well, the property tax or the sales tax from this business or that business, and whether they pay sales tax or whether it's a labor thing or not, that has nothing to do with the true economic loss from taking away a business, from knocking it out. There's people that work there. Those people take the wages from there and they spend it. They spend it here. And just like I told you at the last meeting, there's nobody in this city, and apparently not even your consultant is capable of, I guess, what I learned even as an undergraduate in economics classes, that those effects multiply through the economy. There's 3, 4, 5 times multipliers on this kind of stuff. I thought a smart guy with the finance masters would have been able to tell you that, when you close down a business with 10 employees that are making, $1,000, $2,000 a month, that's well more than just the amount of the sales tax or something or the property tax. That. We're already short on business. We're short on business property here in Corona. And for you to blight a whole area just so you can make a money grab, is a really poor choice. And I called, the other thing that was really interesting is the last meeting, it was like the Ontario project was something that shouldn't be mentioned. You had a consultant in here talking about it, and they talked about every other bridge and how much money it was going to cost. Hey, what about Ontario? Crickets. You can almost see it from here. That bridge is right there. I drive under it all the time. So I called him today. Talk to Public Works, $47 million. $11 million in environmental, design, and right-of-way acquisition. $36 million in construction. $47 million. That was a number that's pretty easy to figure out. So they've got some, like a maintenance contract with it. That's, it's a pretty reasonable amount. You don't have to wipe it out. I heard that, Mr. Scott, you were not in favor of the rail over previously. I'm curious about that, why somebody would think that wasn't a good idea. But anyways, you better buckle up because the people in the orange aren't going to be here every day. Thank you.
I have Alexis, followed by Peter Mort, followed by Dallas Tuff.
Hi, my name's Alexis Stavropoulos. I'm a property owner at 210 DuPont in Corona. My dad bought the property in 1989 and built the building in 1990. He had the Greeks Mattress Warehouse there for over 20 years, and we've been paying a large amount of property taxes every year since then. I now took over the building. I have 5 tenants. I pay $30,000 a year in property taxes. I have $4,000 in expenses each month for the building. And I have over 20 people that will lose their job if this project happens. I also will lose the businesses, and I might even lose the building because I've had to take out money to modernize the building. And I don't want to spend $1 on modernizing if this project goes through because I will lose the value of my building. So I just want you to know how financially that's going to impact me, my family, and the business owners in my property. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter Moore, Dallas Tuff, followed by Keel Mayberry.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, member of the council. My name is Pete Mort. My family has owned a residence in this community for almost 30 years. In the past, I've actually had the pleasure of representing this city. I'm currently with the KPC Group, and our offices are located at the KPC Summit. I'm speaking to you on behalf of the Property Owners or Home Business Owners Association of the Summit. Now, the owners of the association, the property at the association, are over 1,000 employees strong. Each of these employees, in fact, traverse the intersection between Sampson and McKinley on a daily basis. In addition, of course, you've heard from some of them as they talk about people, including children, that come to these facilities. Thus, the association, comprised of both Monster Beverage, Alvord Unified School District, the Corona Surgical Center, and ourselves, are clearly affected by the intersection that we are talking about and the need for this project to go forward. Before I get into too many specifics about why we strongly believe in this project, let me summarize a few statistics that you may not be aware of, and then a few that we have heard from today. In 1981, the Federal Railroad Administration, part of the Department of Transportation, began keeping statistics on all highway rail collisions and crashes at both public and private railroad crossings. In 1981, there were 9,401 such collisions. There were 728 fatalities. This does not take into account accidents that happened leading up to the crossing. This is at the crossing itself. Now, just 2 years ago, this number had dropped to only 2,025 collisions and 265 fatalities. By far and away, the most significant reason for this dramatic reduction in fatalities and in collisions themselves was the creation of separating the cars from the trains and doing grade separations as this project is now proposed. Unfortunately, California has dragged its feet and leads the nation in fatalities with 52 fatalities just 2 years ago. And 2 of those fatalities were at the intersection we are talking about. So of the 8 collisions we have seen at this crossing, 5 of which have resulted in fatalities, 2 were recently. This is not something that is going away.
Thank you, Mr. Mort.
Okay, and I'm Dallas Tuff, and I give my 3 minutes to Peter.
Oh, okay.
Things are not getting better, they are getting worse. Unless something is done, more people are going to die. In just 7 more years, traffic levels will...
Dallas, can you do this? Can you read what he's reading?
I'm sorry, I can't even hear.
No, the discourteousness we're receiving, unfortunately, does not allow me to overtalk him.
Okay, we're, at a request, we're going to take a brief break. Can you stop the timer? We'll restart that at 3.
made my day. I don't even know if I can be angry anymore.
Okay, are we back on? Okay.
And I'm Dallas Tuff, and I live right here in Corona in Eagle Glen, and I decline to speak, and I'm going to pass to Bill Arnold.
I have a card for Fred Arnold. Is it Fred or Bill?
I do know someone named Fred, but it's Bill.
Bill, okay.
Bill Thomas. My business address is 9 KPC Parkway in the city of Corona. And I'll be short. This council has a tough decision to make. We understand that there are legitimate concerns by the business owners with regard to their property and their lives, and that has to be taken into consideration. But I think the overview that I have on this project is that you have a clear public safety issue. I don't think anybody would argue with it. I think one of the speakers was mentioning that everybody understands there's a tremendous traffic congestion problem. There's a tremendous public safety problem presented by the train tracks. The state of California has given you money to address this. Yes, you need to make sure that you're within budget, and you have the opportunity to give that study with the best experts you have to make sure that you can accomplish the project within your budget. But it's the right thing to do to resolve this public safety problem. The community will always respect you for doing the right thing. And people talked about the legacy. The legacy 75, 100 years from now is, did you do the right thing for the community? And so I would certainly ask that you strongly consider moving forward with this important project for the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Keel, followed by Brandon Barnett, followed by John Murphy.
Good afternoon. Keel Mayberry, as my friends and family, Kyle Mayberry.
All right, Kyle. Looks like you.
I'm a principal with Lynn Scott Long Greenspan Engineers, a traffic consulting firm, and I have a long history with the city of Corona. I'm very fond of the city, as I was involved with many traffic studies. I worked with KPC Group for a while, and when I was approached by KPC Group to provide comments on this, I gladly accepted. I have a lot of experience in this area, working with projects as it relates to McKinley and Sampson, and I totally agree with the city's assessment that there are some significant congestion issues caused by the trains. But my intent here is to provide some perspective as a traffic engineer that's worked with essentially every jurisdiction in the region. And in our experience, grade separations are becoming a very important part of many cities' infrastructure and capital improvement programs, particularly in light of Vision Zero, which is a program to reduce pedestrian collisions as well as bicycle collisions. In Orange County, for instance, many, if not most, grade crossings of arterial highways that have passenger and rail crossings have been grade separated, and in my opinion, likely all of those of that type will be grade separated over the next 10 to 20 years. As it relates to McKinley Street, which has obviously been a candidate for grade separation for a while, the grade separation will clearly improve traffic on this corridor of McKinley. The city commented on the number of trains per day. I actually did a little research with the Department of Transportation Federal Railroad Administration, and they have it as many as 100 trains per day. And with an average delay in a 2.5 minute zone, that basically equates to about every hour, 10 minutes of delay. So clearly that's causing a delay issue. So the grade separation will reduce that and basically eliminate that delay from the preemption to zero. So the question becomes, what happens to the transportation system in the area as a result of the grade separation? And we conducted some preliminary 2025 traffic analyses on a version similar to the one that's in the presentation. And the level of service at the affected intersections all operate at acceptable levels. Our firm works primarily on development entitlements. And I am confident that the design can accommodate the traffic condition in the area such that the acceptable level of service will be maintained. Thank you.
Thank you. Brandon Barnett, John Murphy, BJ Swanner.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Brandon Barnett. I'm with KWC Engineers. We are a civil engineering, planning, surveying company in Corona. Been in Corona for 37 years. I'm actually a homegrown engineer. I grew up and I saw Corona change, living next to orange groves, more development, just part of life. And, what I wanted to do, we've been retained by the Summit Owners Association to look at the project. We've been keeping our eye on the project for quite a number of years now, seeing it change from 2007, 2011, last year to this year. One of our goals was to look at the project, and as you guys see on the screen, and hopefully passed out to you, are some snapshots of a 3D model that we created. We anticipate a future design firm to go through this step, but from our perspective, our goal is to not only, it's a tough decision. There are a lot of constraints. There's businesses, but we're solving a regional problem with local impacts. And what we're trying to do is, with this model, is identify some of the positives, some of the opportunities. So with the first, that's just kind of the overall model. So one of the, very impacted businesses is the car wash. And this model really does focus on the car wash. And as you can see, I think it was mentioned earlier, we're looking at maybe a 26 to 22-foot wall next to the car wash. But what I want to point out here is there's opportunities for additional exposure. And you're going to see that throughout the model. There's another big kind of selling point for the bridge over the rails is maintaining access to the businesses as well. So you can kind of see in this perspective the right-hand turn lane being preserved and being in a feasible situation. As I mentioned earlier, I think there would be a great opportunity for some of these businesses growing up in Corona. I didn't even know there were these retail commercial centers there. They're hard to see from McKinley. I think one of the positives, the opportunities here is signage and view shed impacts in a positive sense for some of the businesses. And there we go. Last one that I want to show, I'm running out of time, but I think looking at some of the other overpass projects, mentioning view shed and visual impacts, seeing some of the projects in Orange County, I think signage would go a long way with some of the existing businesses and improving the overall consumer impact. But thank you very much.
Thank you. John Murphy, BJ Swanner, and Mohammed Roof.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, honorable council members. Thank you for allowing me to speak briefly today. What do I bring to the table? I'm an attorney. I'm the managing partner of Murphy & Everetts, and I specialize exclusively in eminent domain. Hopefully, I can answer some of the questions that have been raised by members of the public over the past few minutes. By the way, I want to say, like Mr. Pierce, the first speaker, I balance my practice between public agencies. I represent the County of Orange, the County of Riverside, City of Los Angeles, Department of Water and Power, several other major public agencies. But I also, let me confess, I also represent owners. In fact, my firm has had, I think, the largest awards in the state in each of the past 5 years on behalf of owners. I would like to make 3 points only. First of all, one of the speakers earlier said that this process seems broken. Well, for better or worse, I don't think so. And I can say this, in the 90s, I worked on acquisitions for the toll road agencies in Orange County. The toll roads exist, and I'm just going to share with you, the planning process was about like this. I could say the same about the Alameda Corridor Transportation Authority, County of Orange water projects behind Prado Dam. This is about how it goes. And remember, too, we're still looking ahead towards CEQA review. So there's going to be plenty of further analysis on this project unless nothing happens. Point number one. Point number two, eminent domain is about as highly regulated a field as it's possible to have in the law. We have the Fifth Amendment and Article 1, Section 19 of the California Constitution. And then let me promise you, we have a whole slew of statutes, the Eminent Domain Act, the State Acquisition and Relocation Act, regulations, the Title 25 of the California Administrative Code. What's the point of all these laws? Well, to prevent the very fears that we've heard a lot about today. I've heard accusations that nobody's going to get compensated, that businesses are going to be destroyed. That's not how eminent domain works. Ever since the Constitution was signed in any event, including the Fifth Amendment, just compensation is a requirement. And specifically here, we're talking about not just compensation for real estate, but also compensation for fixtures and equipment, severance damages. We're talking about potentially lost business goodwill. And you know what? There's been a good budget estimate done by a very reputable and prominent relocation acquisition firm, Epic Land, one of the firms that worked on the 91 widening. You're going to hear from Mr. Swanner in just a minute after me, or right now. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. My name is BJ Swanner. I'm here representing the Summit Owners Association. I work for Epic Land Solutions, Inc. We're a right-of-way acquisition relocation consulting firm, and we work almost exclusively for public agencies. My specific role is in impact analysis for public infrastructure projects and cost estimation. It's an important part of the project development process to identify early what's going to be affected by the project, try to mitigate the impacts, and to come up with a cost estimate to help program these projects. We were retained by KPC to do an estimate of a realistic estimate of the right-of-way acquisition and relocation costs, as well as all the other costs that are sort of the process is burdened by that Mr. Murphy just mentioned. All those items of compensation for all the businesses that would be affected up and down McKinley. The estimate that was done in the project study report that we reviewed it didn't address all of those items, admittedly, nor would you expect an estimate done at the project study report level could. We anticipate this project, if it goes forward, will carry through the project development process. It will be refined. The design alternatives that have been presented will be further refined, and only upon selection of a preferred alternative will we have kind of the final alternative that will be carried through and ultimately bid for construction. So there is still some room to adapt to the various concerns that some of the businesses in the area may have. But in an attempt to provide a cost estimate to determine ultimately the feasibility of the project, we did look at the alternatives that were developed in the project study report and estimated to the best of our ability, based on our knowledge of the process that Mr. Murphy described, the eminent domain process and the various sort of prevailing measures and laws that are, that the project would be subject to. And we believe that the estimate that was presented in the PSR was slightly low, but not very low. We're looking at in the range of $30 million for the right-of-way acquisition, all inclusive of severance damages, loss of goodwill, as well as all the other costs and fees, title and escrow and consultant costs and everything else that gets bundled into that. In an effort to gut check our estimate after having gone through this process, we work in projects all throughout Southern California. And we are just wrapping up another project in the City of Industry, the Nogales Street South grade separation, which is a similarly complex project. It's a road under as opposed to road over rail, but there's still the grade separation issue with the big walls and loss of sight lines and things like that. And we had some similar businesses that would be affected by this project. And at the end of the day, when we look at our actuals for that project, I have almost exactly a $30 million cost for all the right-of-way component. So I just thought I'd bring that to bear. Thank you.
Thank you. Mohammed Ruff. I want to pull a card. It looks like, is Juanice here now? Okay, so after Mohammed, we'll have Juanice speak, and then Chris McCoy.
My name is Mohammed Rauf. After heading a foreign bank in New York for 10 years, in 2013, I moved to California. I bought 3 businesses in the city of Corona. 2 businesses were at 6th Street. One was at 6th Street and second was at Lincoln Avenue. With the expansion of 91 freeway, both businesses died, and I had to shut those down. I am left with 1 business at McKinley, which is right on the McKinley Street. And the city builds a wall 24 feet high, I'm vanished. So the fact is that if you do construct such kind of structures, the businesses die out. The second thing I was hearing about other things, that the people are saying that there's a Monster company on the side of the freeway, and they have problems when they have to call 911 or the ambulances and all that. So I was just wondering, where's the train track? Train track is on the other side. And the Monster company is close to 91 freeway. So how come the train is stopped, or train tracks are stopping the ambulances and the police or fire trucks to reach to them? So I don't understand that. Another thing, as far as the traffic backup is concerned, we see traffic backup every day on Freeway 15 and 91. So should we build bridges there? That's all. Thank you.
Good evening, council members, ladies and gentlemen. I just had a couple of brief points that I wanted to bring out in regards to the McKinley Grade Separation Project. I've heard just a few of the speakers, but it seems like this is a really emotionally charged situation, and it seems to be there's a lot of debate on both sides. But I just feel that the issue hasn't really been appropriately investigated. We don't have really the necessary experts to really look at alternate options. A lot of the people that are pushing for it are doing it for their own financial gain, I feel, and they're not really looking at the benefit of the other businesses that are going to get affected and basically demolished by it. So it seems to be a very financial sort of situation for a lot of the people, I think, that are wearing the orange shirts today. It seems like they're looking for their financial benefit to the expense of the other business owners and property owners. And this is my husband, Ahmed. I'm Denise Redwan. We own the McKinley Shell that's right off. That's basically going to be taken down according to the plans. And we've been there, I think we were the first business. Well, my husband was. We've only been married 17 years, but he's had it for 37 years. And he was the first business on that street. So it's just really sad that they want to kind of kick out the businesses that kind of founded the city of Corona and paid a lot of taxes over the years. And this is like the way they're treating us at this point without really thinking about the hard work and the compensation that and the sweat that went into that business and all the other neighboring businesses as well. So I would just like them to kind of think about it maybe a little more, not rush into a decision, kind of get expert witnesses on it, think about alternate options as opposed to just demolishing everything and just putting a road right in there. And, so if you guys could just take the time, really, and maybe do a little more due diligence. Thank you.
Could I take the 48 second?
No,
left?
you've already spoken. I got yelled at already on that one. Nobody's passed any time, even 48 seconds. Sorry.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we have Chris McCoy. And wait a minute, Chris, I'm going to apologize right now. All these cards, just let me know whether you're speaking or not, because they all say for Joe. I'm going to make sure, because I have just Linda for Joe Morgan. Are you, you're not giving your time. Are you going to speak? No, No one else did. We did not allow it for anybody else. But I just want to make sure. So Linda, you're giving your time. Fred Flores? No? Susan Richens? This one, I don't know, Jeff Nelson? You speak, well, okay. You follow Chris. Angelique Hartog? No. Carlos Padilla? He's a no also? Thank you. Valentine Sandoval? Okay, so you're going to follow Jeff Nelson? Crystal B? Umar Roth? Now you know why I was confused here, guys. I think the rest of these are not yielding. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Chris.
Okay. Chris McCoy, Nathan Howard. I am a citizen and stakeholder. So I wanted to come up and talk primarily, the first thing I wanted to talk about was the concept of GIGO, G-I-G-O, garbage in, garbage out. A lot of people think that that came from computer programmers, but it actually came from analysts originally, NASA analysts. And what it means is if you put garbage into a system, you get garbage out. And I sincerely feel right now we are nowhere near a point where we should be making any decisions on this. And I honestly feel like you're not getting accurate data from the staff at all. The smell test, Orange has done 10 of these grade separations. They've cost between $30 and $100 million. None of them have cost $200 million. And we're including the one in Kramer where they have rail over and they dug these enormous trenches and they had to move the roadway over a quarter of a mile away to make this giant path around it. So right from the beginning, you need to be going back to staff and saying, okay, I already know that there's something fishy in Denmark here. You're not giving me information to make a good decision because you're not getting it. Bottom line. Now, on top of that, the rail over doesn't pass the smell test from another situation, which is I keep hearing about this maintenance issue. If you have a bridge, you're going to be doing maintenance on it, whether BNSF is maintaining the rails on top of it or you're maintaining asphalt on top of it. Either way, you're going to be maintaining that bridge. Caltrans is not going to jump in and go, hey, you know what, we suddenly love Corona and we're going to take care of this bridge for you. It's probably not going to happen. And I'm also willing to bet that BNSF is going to be willing to work with us on that. So again, to say that there's this huge future ramp-up cost on that, I don't think that that's accurate either. I'm not saying I know for sure, but I'm saying I would guess that that's probably the case. I don't think you're getting accurate revenue estimates at this time either, because all of those retail shops that are up against the 91 on Sampson, none of those were included in this estimate. So we need to add that dollar amount as well as far as our annual revenue goes. I don't know if we're going to be near $1 million, but when we're looking for $8 million just to make our annual nut as far as how much we need to pay for our CalPERS, losing $1 million there in overall revenue is a big chunk. So again, that should be another smell test issue where it's like, why aren't we getting this information from the staff? Finally, how many of these businesses are going to leave altogether? And again, we don't know. And this is something that staff can estimate. There are all kinds of analytical tools and engines that can tell you what your reduction in taxes is going to be, how much you're going to lose, who's going to move to another city. These are all serious concerns, and I just don't feel you're getting enough information. I really don't. So I'm going to ask you to make sure that you're going back and demanding more from staff on this than you're getting.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Jeff Nelson, 1631 Fairmont. I was at the last study session, and the consultant talked about the cars going over the train for $85 million. And then he said the train over the cars was going to be roughly $200 million. And then we found out that in 2007, somebody else had done similar numbers, and it was going to be $80K to do the car over the train and only a $10,000 difference to do the train over the car. So at this meeting, I was hoping we were going to find out where that $100 million disparity came from. Then we find out by some of the folks talking that they've gotten estimates that there's a rail over car for $50 million that was done locally. So I'm trying to find out what's the concrete information here, and I don't think that anybody's got it. And I just think that before you make this decision, you have to get concrete information as much as you possibly can, and that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Valentine Sandoval and Umar, and then Christina.
Hi, my name's Valentine. I'm a Monster Energy employee and a resident in Corona. There's a huge problem with traffic. There is, and there has to be some solution, okay? People talk about, oh, there's traffic, tough, right? Today. What about the traffic of tomorrow, right? Saturation, the population, the saturation of cars, everything is only gonna get worse. There needs to be a solution, okay? Much like Daryl Roth earlier was speaking about, another Monster Energy employee, when you're traveling up the 91 East, okay? People don't realize that there's 2-lane exit, right? So that right lane gets really backed up. Well, another lane that gets backed up is the one to the left of it, right? And that gets backed up, that's still into the freeway. And I can't tell you how many times that we've been stuck right there at the exit while cars are whizzing by 65 miles per hour, okay? That's a huge issue. It's an issue for me because my wife works in Orange County, right? She takes that exit, and it's a concern to me. I'm kind of getting emotional about it because I moved here about 8 months ago now, right? I live off McKinley. I see the traffic. I see these trains. I've witnessed that 10-minute train, right? And it sucks, okay? Sorry, I lost train of thought here. There needs to be a solution, right? I moved in. I'm kind of glad my lease is up because I'm actually thinking about moving to South Orange County because I don't want to go across the other way, south side of the train, because that train takes forever. The frequency, people stop in the middle of the road because the train is coming. They're impatient. Like I said, people talk about the traffic of today, but what about the traffic of tomorrow? There needs to be a solution.
Thank you. Umar, Christina, followed by Tom Richens.
Hi, my name is Amer. I'm Mohammed's son, who owns the Boost Mobile on McKinley. We moved here from New Jersey about 5 years ago, and he bought 3 businesses, Boost Mobiles, which 2 of them were shut down by road construction. So we only have the one left, and that's our only source of income. My dad moved us here in hope for a better future for my siblings and myself. And by constructing a bridge right on top of our only source of income, you're taking away all of the money that he has for me and for the rest of my siblings. He's already put them through college. I'm the last one left. By taking away our business, you're taking away my future and my ability to become something in life. He's gonna be the one to pay for my college. I'm trying, but he's my father. He's gonna be paying for my college, and by taking away his job, you're taking away all of our money, you're taking away my future. And these business owners have families as well. And by taking away their jobs, you're taking away their kids' futures. And as someone said before, business owners, we've been through a lot, we're fighters, and I will not let you take away my future. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Christina, and I run the Popeye's Chicken on McKinley and Magnolia. And I am also a longtime resident of this area, McKinley, Buchanan, Pierce area. And I was born here 40 years ago. So these were my stomping grounds. My children walk all the way up to Walmart to go to work. I have children that walk to Popeyes to go to work. That also, there's 20 other employees that work there, that walk, that drive, that are, residents of Corona. Now, no one's saying that, these business owners are saying we are not concerned over public safety, okay? And no one should put words into their mouth. What they're saying is, please don't put it on the cost of us to lose our livelihoods, to lose our money. Please look into this and see an option that can help everybody, not just help the right or help the left. So much of that is happening in this country. It shouldn't happen in this room. Thank you.
Good evening, Tom Richens, 1031 East Grand Boulevard, Corona citizen. I was a little confused when I walked in. I thought county lockup dropped off at the wrong place. But it turns out they all work for Dr. Shadry. That building, Dr. Shadry owns KPC, and we've now clouded an issue with orange shirts. So I'll let that cronyism just go by, I suppose. My comments for this bridge is disgusting. It ranks right up there with the worst of it. You guys tore down a Carnegie. You brought us downtown revitalization. You brought the 91 freeway that cut through the Grand Circle. You guys are right lockstep to make the next mistake. So I don't understand it. I don't understand the thinking. I've talked to a few people. They say there's already posturing that this bridge is going to be approved. It's a mistake. It's a mistake to a city I love. It's a mistake to your guys' career as council people. This is your reputation on the line. And I promise you now, you're making mistakes, should you approve it. I have 1:38 seconds, and I'd like to close with Robert Taylor and 4 co-founders founded this city. They came to Corona. They mostly came from Iowa. They came with a lot of money, and they came with a plan to establish a city. They said, hey, let's put in a Grand Boulevard. Let's put in a circle. We'll inspire residential in the middle and agriculture on the perimeter. We'll grow it. We'll bring the water in from great distances because we know the weather's right for citrus. They built the packing houses down by the railroad because that's where you load up citrus to ship easily. The reason Corona was so great is it was built on an alluvial plain. They didn't have sophisticated water pumps. You used the alluvial plain to water your trees. 10 years after this city was founded, they held a great meeting in the Hotel Temescal where all of the city leaders got together, every one of them, and it was packed. To get the invitation was grand, and they all complimented themselves on a city well built. And the citizens loved them for a city well built. You guys aren't improving upon that, you're taking away from it. And if you deny this bridge, that's when you get to compliment yourself on a city well built. Thank you.
Youssef, are you speaking? Is Youssef in the room? Are you speaking? No. Thank you. Sorry, I can't hear you. Michael Chu, followed by Suzanne Richards and Peter Baranoff. Choose the last card in.
Hello, Mayor, City Council. My name is Michael Chu. And although I'm not wearing an orange shirt, I am a full supporter of this grade separation project. My family's here today. I am here, for the record, on free will. I do not work for KPC. I'm talking and speaking as a resident of Corona. We love Corona. My family loves Corona. Today's my baby girl's birthday. Happy birthday, Ashley. We come down to McKinley quite often. My son goes to the USC gym there, and we have seen it backed up. And I'm kind of thinking about the future of, one, the safety of that area, because I have seen it and been backed up in that street as well as the amount of homes that are being built and the amount of people are still moving into Corona because they love this place. They've heard a lot about Corona, and I kind of disagree. I think y'all have done a great job. There is going to be some disagreements, based on new things that we got to do for the city to make it better. So I am here to speak as a resident of Corona, and we do support, our family supports some type of grade separation project to remove the way it's done with the railroad now. Most cities that are being built now either have a bridge that goes over or the railroad goes over the street. So, something's got to change. It's just going to get worse with the amount of residents that are moving into this city. So I hope that y'all support this and approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Suzanne Richards, Peter Baranoff, Vanessa Amos.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Suzanne Richards. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Orange County Global. Hopefully you don't know that name, because if you do, you may have had an MI, you may have had a stroke, you may have been in a trauma, because we are one of the largest tertiary centers that actually get a lot of patients, a lot of your residents from the city of Corona. One of the things I think is important to note that it makes me very sad when I hear the business owners. I run a business, and I know how attached you get to that business. But I would gather that there is something they are more attached to, and that is a family member, a friend, a coworker, an employee. And if we're the closest STEMI center, and there's a lot of traffic on the 91. That's why sometimes you don't go to the Riverside facility. You come into Orange County. You have 3 minutes if you want to wake up the way you are now after you have gone into a lethal arrhythmia. If you don't get oxygen to your brain within 6 minutes, you're not probably going to wake up. And if you really want to survive, we've got to defibrillate you very fast. So the concern for you as the city council, yes, is the businesses, but I think more importantly, the health and welfare of your citizens. When a train takes 10 minutes and that EMS, that emergency medical responders, are waiting 10 minutes, maybe 2 minutes to get the call because you didn't know to call 911, you didn't know what was wrong with your loved one. We're now at 12 minutes. They're now going to have to drive past that traffic once they get past that train. And chances are that citizen of Corona is not going to make it to my facility. Or if they do make it to my facility, I'm going to have, the doctors are going to have a very sad conversation with that family. So I do not envy anyone that sits on this city council. This is a very hard decision to make. The business owners do have a point. The community has a point, and you're going to have to make the best decision, which may be to get to those people faster for your emergency medical support system. Thank you.
Thank you. That last speaker just scared me. I have been looking at relocating a business to that area in the office park, and have gotten some information from realtors as we sat in traffic, and I've been told that the traffic problem is going away. Trust me when I tell you, I am not signing a lease till I hear what's going on. I just was fortunate enough to check it out and find out that you had this on your agenda. And, you've got an issue here. You've got terrible traffic. It's an impediment to people looking to relocate. I'm looking at relocating a business, families are looking to relocating a business. But trust me, I'll tell you, this traffic, I'm not signing a lease. I wouldn't even touch it. And you could go either direction, and it's there. Now, as another speaker said, to make changes, there are roads going over areas, there's construction occurring, it's very common. I think, the council here has a fairly obvious decision to make, that if you want to see the continued growth to your city, you've got to do something about this. And I think going over with the bridge, allowing the cars to go over, you're going to have a city who's going to continue to prosper. And I'm not here because I'm wearing an orange shirt. Thanks.
Vanessa Amos, do I have any more blue cards? Please. It's like keep dragging this up. Bring your blue cards up so we have an idea of who's still coming up. Vanessa, then Michelle Wentworth.
Hi, my name's Vanessa. I work at Monster Energy. I am a Corona resident. Nobody paid me $100 to wear the orange shirt. Not only do I work at Monster, I also work at Applebee's. I'm a single mom raising 2 kids by myself. Both of my kids go to school in Corona. This affects me. Sometimes when I leave work at, 10 minutes to 6, and I have to go rush to go pick up my 7-year-old from after school program, I get stuck there for 30 minutes. I can't. I let you speak, please let me speak. It's America. We're all entitled to how we feel. It does affect me. It affects my 7-year-old, who I had to go run and get and come back so that I can express to you guys. It affects me. It affects him. I've gotten there late. He's bawling his eyes out. Yes, I do feel for your businesses. I understand. There's ups and downs to everything. But we're all here to express how it affects us. I'm not here to judge you. Please don't judge me. But it does affect me. I do pay my taxes here. I own a home. I work 2 jobs in Corona. So I'm entitled to how I feel. And I am all for the bridge. So thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle Wentworth, Corona. Let me just share with you that I too take my child for 3 years straight, 4 days a week, to tutoring in the center right behind the Shell station. I know what the traffic is. And I sat on that 91 and I'm in front of RCTC twice this month. You want to talk traffic? We can talk traffic. There's a solution to traffic. You guys need to put the rail over the road. This doesn't make a lot of sense. I went to the study sessions. I don't understand that the amount of money that you're losing in sales tax, property tax, plus I don't think that the takings of all these properties were added in. I didn't see that properly calculated. There's no way. And then you come back with, it's $200 million to do it that way? And you have residents that come up here and say, nope, we got another project that showed $46 million on a bid. That's so far under, it doesn't make sense. What makes sense is that you need time, makes sense that you were rushed, makes sense you didn't get enough information from the staff. That makes sense. Makes sense that the city manager can ask for more time. There's got to be more options here. There is a solution to traffic, Monster employees. It's the rail over. Look at Dos Lagos. What good is it to have all those businesses below anything? It doesn't help. So if I had anything to say about traffic, it would be absolutely. You want to help the businesses, you want to help the traffic, you want to get everything flowing. You guys have a difficult decision to make, but you know you need to relieve traffic. But I don't think that you looked at the rail over enough. I think this doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense why there's so many people in this room doing this. It doesn't make sense, the timeline, the money difference. And the fact that it doesn't make sense to me means that there's something going on behind the scenes that I don't understand. Thank you.
Okay, I've got the last card on this item. The last speaker is John Petty.
Madam Mayor and members of the council, John Petty, 9 KBC Parkway. First of all, I want to present a petition signed by 200 Monster employees. This is upsetting to us because there's some nefarious theory here that people are being paid to be here or anything else. The vast majority of these people that are here today are Monster employees that are directly affected. I represent the Summit Owners Association. There are over, as you've heard, over 1,000 employees at our project. And it is absolutely imperative that we have a solution to this problem. The study session in November clearly pointed out the issue of a almost $200 million grade separation involving train tracks over McKinley. I'll call them the other side. I hate that this is an adversarial thing because it shouldn't be. The other side has had from November to schedule whatever meetings they wanted to have, whatever input they wanted to get from BNSF. And I'm hearing, well, we made a phone call this morning, or we made a phone call yesterday, and oh yes, they'll come and they'll meet with us. Anybody that knows anything about railroads knows that they're not going to go out of their way to do anything. And this issue about indemnification that the city would have to do for BNSF right-of-way is absolutely correct. We've checked this out ourselves. This can be a, lemonade out of lemon situation. This business about people are going to lose their business, they're going to have no money, as John Murphy, a very preeminent condemnation attorney, said. There is a process here, it's a highly regulated process. The step that you are taking now is just getting to the design phase. We don't even have a preferred alternative. We did as much as contact Riverside Construction Company and a contractor that built the McKinley overpass. We said, we're trying to get facts here, from guys that actually build these things. What is it that we should expect? Both of them came back and said, based on similar projects that they have done, somewhere in the neighborhood of $30 to $35 million is the correct construction cost for the bridge over the railroad tracks. You've got $90 million that's been identified with still a preferred alternative that hasn't been selected. So you're really at the front end of this process. What you're doing today is saying, look, state of California, thank you for $84.5 million that we had no clue we were even going to get. You heard today that there's 3 hours projected daily of total stoppage of traffic. The reason that a lot of these businesses are not doing well right now is because people don't want to come into this area because there's so much traffic. Let's build the bridge and solve the problem.
Thank you. Couple of comments that need to be followed up on. And that was at the last study session, it was explained why we have an unusual problem that did not occur over at the interpass at McMillan, or Milliken. I went over there, I did also talk to the City of Ontario, and then came back and found why the problem occurs that we can't do that. We have a flood channel right next to the tracks. They don't have that anywhere else. And you've been over there, that flood channel is what's really making it challenging for us. In every aspect, whether it's cars over, why we can't go under, if you remember all the discussions, I wanted to go under, that couldn't happen. We looked at the trains going over. In the process of building this, it was explained last time, is we almost have to build it twice. You want to explain that, Nelson? Or Daryl, one of you two want to explain that?
Yes. So I was actually in the meeting with BNSF, and as the last speaker said, they were very, very clear with me about the liability indemnification issue. But there are a couple of complexities with this grade separation that didn't occur in the other locations. Primarily, the flood control channel is one, but the construction cost when compared to the other ones seems probably actually very accurate in that we have to build it twice. I learned a new word while working with the train folks. Like I said, they were very nice, they're very collaborative, and they are willing to do train over car, but the price is the price. The reason it's so expensive is we have to build it twice. The first thing that gets built is called a shoe fly, which is a parallel track that will either cantilever over, which doesn't work with trains, but it'll have to be in the right-of-way because there's a legal separation issue between tracks. They will not turn off the track while under construction, and there's a legal separation distance between the two sets of tracks. So as you're building the shoe fly, there has to be separation, and then as you go vertical, that separation has to stay intact. And then when the vertical one is shifted over, you have to take apart the old one, the shoe fly, the temporary version. So you're actually building it 2 times. It's made more complex because of the channel, but more importantly, another new concept was a vertical arc, a vertical circle as they were calling it. What we have at Radio Road is a switching, a train yard, for lack of a better example. And that's where they are trading tracks for Metrolink and a lot of other things. The distance between the overpass at McKinley and the distance between that switching yard, there was a fancy word for it, Nelson might have it, but it was like an X track. It can only be so vertical and it can be only so close to the yard. So there are 3 complexities that exist in this overpass that don't exist in other overpasses, and they're willing to do it, they're willing to talk through it, but the design work that would need to go into that is single-digit millions, but the construction costs are fairly well known. They agree with those, but again, 200 is an estimate, but without spending a handful of millions like we're talking about today to look at the design cost of car over train, you don't know. But you do know when you're building it twice and you can only be so vertical and all these other things going on, it explains the price. What's discouraging is one of the residents actually proclaimed he was going to hold meetings with BNSF. I don't think that occurred. When we talk to BNSF, they're not interested in coming to political environments. They said, hey, we're here, we'll help you, we won't pay, we want indemnification, we want business interruption. Because the difference is if our car over train fails in an earthquake, within a day or 2 we can have the rails cleared, probably a day. If the train track fails and falls, it severs the track. And that's why they never favor elevated tracks, period. They will live with elevated tracks, but they want maintenance agreements and indemnifications, but it's never a preferred alternative. And as was described for anybody that's actually worked with a train company, they're not real sensitive to business interruptions for us. They were here first, we built up against them, and they really just want to be left alone. So to that degree, they were great to work with, but I'm fairly confident in what they were saying, that they would honestly keep their word and continue working with us, but would also require us to meet all these parameters, including the shoe fly, that would drive cost up near or beyond $200 million. With that said, today is, I'm always disappointed when opposition to a project immediately screams, there's something going on, there's blah, blah, blah. That's just disgusting, and it's not fair. The reality of it is we have a traffic problem, we have a solution, we got money we weren't expecting, there are engineers' estimates. Every estimate you've seen and every picture you've seen to this point is nothing more than an engineer's estimate and somebody's idea of what could be, not what will be, not what we're planning, what could be. Today, well, it's actually tonight now, the decision tonight is really asking the council, do you want to go forward with the next phase? The next phase is $6 to $8 million to sit down and work with every single business in this room and the ones that didn't bother to show. Work through multiple different design concepts, work with engineers, work with business owners, work with landlords, work with the community to try to figure out how to get the train separated from the cars in the least impactful way. As was described by a couple of the attorneys, that's what the law mandates. That's what we will do. There's probably very little regulated or more heavily regulated than condemnation. Every single step of the way is designed to protect the citizen. That's what drives the cost up. That's why there's this wide variation in cost. And it shows up in 2 places, because there's land acquisition, which is fairly traditional. It's an MAI appraisal. Then there's the business value and the furniture, fixtures, and equipment and relocation and reestablishment. There's a whole series of things that go into to make the business owner whole. But until we go through the design concept, work collaboratively with the community to see what it might look like, we can't get a price. We don't know what's going to be taken. We don't know how each of the businesses will be impacted. But if you go to the next step, we'll bring back to you essentially what will be a complete bid package. And we will show you it's going to cost $117 million, where you might say, we don't want to do it. We might show that it costs $62 million, and you'd say, yeah, let's do it. Either way, we can't get you a real answer. And I know all the armchair engineers in the House have told us that it costs this much, and Norco did it for that much, and Ontario can do it for this, irrelevant, doesn't matter. Until we design it, till we really look at the real estate, and we aren't even legally allowed to go in and talk to business owners right now. So really, let's put into perspective what today's about. Today was about sharing information, sharing pictures one more time, getting to the end of a timeline that was designed by the state of California for these monies to ask you, do you want to spend $6 to $8 million that's non-refundable, that doesn't come from the general fund, to work with the community to see what the design might look like? If the answer is yes, Nelson and his team will begin working on that immediately. We will start going out to bid for engineers that will present a lot of design concepts. We'll start having public engagement meetings with the impacted business owners. We'll have meetings with the community in general, and we will come back with a bid package that the numbers are very finite. And if you say yes, then the bid will go, construction will start. But that's the long and the short of it.
Before we move on, I want to go back on the railroad thing. The people you had at the table, this Tierra Adams that they were talking about, who was at the table when you were at the meeting?
If I may, Daryl.
Yeah, Nelson probably has a list for you.
Actually, that's in our presentation for November. I actually listed the people that we had attend that meeting. And these are the official representatives from BNSF that we are required to work with. And so when I hear somebody call somebody at BNSF and they said, well, they said they'd be here, well, we're working through the official channels. And I said, that's why it took so long to arrange for this meeting, because we had to have the right players at that meeting. And they're the ones that were empowered to make decisions on behalf of BNSF. And because everything I'm presenting, I have to back up with facts. I include as much of this information in my presentation. These are on the website for everybody to see. And I want to be very careful about what I put here to make sure it's been well thought through and then checked. I can't say it's absolutely perfect, but it has been checked, validated as best I can do it. And I commit to what I said in here, in my past meetings and what I'm saying today.
And the only reason I'm saying that is because I know Joe Morgan said he was going to bring the railroad to this meeting. And then someone said they called this Tierra Adams and she would come, but she wasn't invited. That's because there was other people invited to the table that we did talk to, correct?
Correct. And they made it clear who we need to talk to and what meetings they would participate in. And they said they don't want to be in a public meeting. They would meet with us one-on-one to talk about stuff like that, but their positions aren't to debate issues with us. They're going to come out and say this is their positions, and they clarify it. And they don't want to argue with anybody about what those positions are.
Okay. We're not going to get a discussion from the Florida here, okay? I was just following up that, because it was accused that we didn't have BNS, but they did come to the meeting. We can get them at the, well, I'm not going to. Do my colleagues have questions or further conversation?
Yeah. Dennis, I want to thank you, well, first for sticking around, but also for putting that video together, because I think it really shows what some of us have experienced, but it shows not just that intersection at Sampson and McKinley, but how far it reaches back. I think the Magnolia one would be almost a given, but going all the way back to Promenade is really surprising how far back that traffic backs up. And actually having the facts and showing that, I think, is really telling. So I want to thank you for putting that together, because I know that wasn't something that was easy for you to put together, and it was a lot of work. Nelson, when did we have the very first meeting and the very first discussions on this bridge? Was it before 2007? I know we did it 2007.
Again, I have to back up what I can say with facts. The only thing I could document, this was before I was even here. 2007 was when it went to the city council. Now, it was said that that decision was not made, but that's in the minutes too.
Right.
So that's easy to validate.
Right, and I know...
Before that, I don't know what the council had, but I know that there was decisions made to actually come up with a proposal, and that was brought to the study session.
Right, because you had some preliminary money to do some initial designs for that project, correct?
To put that study together, yes.
Yeah, so I mean, all of that was done and shared with a number of the property owners at the time, too. Well, it was a public meeting. And So, I mean, there was public record of that design, at least for the last 11 years. So, in fact, Steve even admitted to the fact, so. We have actual minutes of it, and like Karen said, we're not going to go back and debate. There are actual minutes of the meeting, the public meeting, of when it was done. One of the things that I think we are criticized sometimes for is not being business friendly. And, you know, this is nothing but being business friendly. We've met with a number of the business owners. We have, 1,000 employees. We have the largest corporation that's headquartered in the area right there at that intersection. And to say that we're not taking that into consideration, that's part of the consideration too. They pay taxes. They are here as well. They pay property tax. They have employees that live in Corona. They spend money in Corona. And I think that's something that, that we need to always keep in mind, that there are still businesses. One comment, I think on the car wash was that 90% of the traffic would be obliterated, which is not quite true. Obviously, there might be some visibility issues that can be debated, but the driveways on Sampson still exist. The driveway on McKinley still exists. So yes, there would probably be some visibility issues, but as far as the traffic and the accessibility, that is not true. Let's see. Nelson, when we build this, because someone mentioned the road being shut down for 2 years, how long will McKinley be shut down to build this bridge?
Now, one of the things we'd stipulate in the design concept is we have to come up with a way to build a product and still accommodate traffic through the area. So we know there'll be times where McKinley might have to be shut. Will probably be weekends, nights. It's going to be much like the 91 freeway, where the freeway was still operating, and you reduced lanes maybe, but you had to maintain traffic through the entire area. And that'll be for this project as well. So essentially, you'll probably build one half of the bridge first, and then you come back and build the other half of the bridge.
And that's pretty much what they're doing at Cahalco right now.
Yes. Well, and actually, Calco's different. In that one, we have a unique situation where we can actually build a bridge parallel to the existing one. And so we're going to build a brand-new bridge entirely while the existing one's still up. And when that one's opened up, then we can take the old one down.
But I mean, as far as keeping the traffic open and
accommodating traffic all
moving.
the time, yes.
Right.
That's closer to Osler Center, that'd be correct.
And then, let's see. One of the other things that I think is worth noting too, when RCTC did the 91 freeway, we as a city had very little input with, where they took businesses, what they did as far as the design was concerned. But we did have quite a bit of involvement in making sure as many of those businesses ended up staying in Corona. And virtually all of them did. And some of them that were actually leasees ended up being property owners. So they were able to actually take the money that they were getting and actually save some money and went ahead and purchased some property. So, so I think there are identifiable results that we've done in the past to at least help when we helped the local businesses with RCTC. I think that's all I have right now.
Thank you. There was a gentleman who came up just at the end, and sir, I did not get your name and I apologize. But you had said that you're thinking about moving to Corona, and you met with some realtors and you were doing your due diligence, and I applaud you for that. That's the way business is supposed to be run. And I congratulate you for doing that, and I hope things work out, and I hope you come to Corona and you make $1 bajillion. But having said that, I remember going out for dinner with Chris one night to the Outback, and I was a treasurer at the time, so it was before 2012, and the manager there said, "Hey, I heard there's going to be a bridge going up here. When's that going to happen?" And I said, "Probably we get some money, but not until that time." So quite frankly, this has been on the books for a long, long, long time. And I know this, that if I were going to if I was going to start a business, I think I would have done just like this other gentleman did, due diligence to make sure that I wasn't surprised. In addition, I take great pride in the fact that I deal in facts and not feelings. And quite frankly, I was a little insulted tonight because somebody got up here and said that we, the four of us, destroyed the Carnegie Library. I don't think we did. And we built the 91 to tear up Grand Boulevard. Well, that would happen in 1969, I think, because I was still in the Marines. So we didn't do that either. And of course, the Corona Mall, well, we didn't do that either, okay? So there have been some good projects in Corona, and there's some less than good projects in Corona, but I don't think it's fair to blame us for the failures of other people, or at least the perceived failures of other people, because without the 91 freeway, you're certainly not going to get from my house to Balboa. So you have to have the 91. So I'm just saying that it's probably not a bad thing. Something else was pointed out to me today, that we got elected to represent the 166,000 people that we have here in the city of Corona and the businesses. But it's not exclusively the 166,000 people, nor the businesses. So I think that we should continue to work together, okay, and have facts and not feelings, and talk about the best way that we can fix this issue in Corona. Because there are going to be some solutions. There's going to be give and take, and there's going to be more give and take for some side, and the next day is going to be give and take from the other side. But we are going to get this thing done. My good friend Don brought up the term legacy. And I like that word, legacy, because I've got grandkids. I like that. But you guys remember when the Main Street went in, the bridge crossing at Main Street? What a horrible attitude. That was terrible. That was terrible. It was horrible. And now nobody knows. Nobody recognizes it. You have to get from North Corona to South Corona. You have to go to the library from my house. You go over the bridge and you're done. So I think that once this thing is built, if it is built, it's a part of growth. It's a part of progress. It really is a part of progress. I know that a lot of people remember the Mava ice cream stand. Remember that on 6 in Lincoln? Best ice cream in the world. It's now gone. And that's a shame, because they had great ice cream. But it's now, it was a horrible, horrible thing. Somebody brought up, I believe it was an engineer, a real engineer, not like somebody used the term here, a handshake engineer, but a real engineer said that not all the information was brought forward. Now, should it have been? Because we haven't gone into an in-depth study. And I think that's what we're going to have to do, to get an in-depth study to find out exactly what the heck we're going to do. Now, nobody likes the term, oh gosh, Nelson, what's the word I'm looking for? When you come back for more money, okay?
Change order?
Huh?
Change order?
A change order. God, I hate those things. Oh, God, they're annoying. It's like PT. I hate them. And that's why we need to have an in-depth study to find out exactly what we're getting into to mitigate the change orders, okay? But again, this is our town. I don't care if you live in West LA and you own a business here, or you live in Corona and you own a business here, or you live in Corona and you just go to school here and you work here. I think it's a great place to be. And we need to do is to protect ourselves. We need to protect ourselves as citizens. We need to protect ourselves as businesses. And we're going to work together. Quite frankly, the threats that were given out earlier, I don't know, well, we'll leave that alone. But we have to work together. And as always, like I always close, you want to get in contact with me, give me a call. Going on Facebook is fine. Call me on the phone. Let's get together for a cup of coffee and we'll talk. Thank you.
Well, first off, I want to thank everyone that came up and spoke, as well as everyone that's here, just to be involved in the information, get the information so you can make your own decision and have a logical thought related to it, and then leave here and share it with other people, whether it's for or against one or the other, or taking no action at all. I thank you. Now, I do want to let people know that I did hear of some other options and did some minor checking into that. So just to give you a bit of other options as I was talking to people, they suggested lowering the flood channel, as well as lowering the rail, as well as lowering the road. So if we lower them all, then it'll work better for everybody. Now, I'm not talking about one at a time. I mean, their suggestion was to lower them all. Also, there were a few people who suggested that the best solution was to close Sampson at the railroad track, close McKinley at Sampson at the railroad track, meaning that any vehicle coming up on the railroad tracks could not cross the railroad tracks to go toward Magnolia. They would have to make a left or a right-hand turn on Sampson and then travel down Sampson in either direction to then cross to get to Magnolia. And that would take care of the railroad crossing, and we wouldn't have to have as many turn signals. We could just have it go, and everybody could go one way or the other. So I'm just sharing ideas that were shared with me. There was a lot of information about the railroad over the road and the road over the railroad. Additionally, I think it's interesting that there's a Tara Adams, and I plan to try to get in touch with her to follow up on that. In regards to rail over the roads, based on the previous meeting that staff had with them, and that Daryl Talbert mentioned as our city manager, they want 2 miles of flat rail if we're raising it, 2 miles, and then you go to the gradient on either end. That's significantly long that we would have to construct. We talked about additional tracks would be required because BNS wants additional tracks if we're going to do that. He mentioned the shoe fly where we have to build a whole nother track while we raise the track, as well as other complications. So that tells you why the cost is significantly more, at least tells me. My colleague, Mr. Haley, mentioned Main Street. Sufficiently old enough or been around enough or both that I do recall Main Street when both Main Street was straight and Main Street went over the railroad tracks. And I do recall as a youth waiting for the train to go by. But I also know that over the course of time, there have been more railroad trains going through this corridor. Right now, we're at about 60, I believe Mr. Nelson said, around there. When I was a youth, I'm sure there weren't that many, but it seemed to me it took forever to get across. So when that bridge came, it was of great relief to the community. So I look at what our possibilities are for today. We can say, let's do nothing. We have about $90 million. We can just say, forget it. We're not going to do anything. And if we get more money down the line, we can reassess that. It might come, but I do know one thing based on what the railroad is saying is that we're headed toward 135 trains coming, and those trains are going to be longer, which is going to make that traffic worse. So we can do nothing, or we can take another step. The next step has been described as we look at and involve our businesses in the process of looking at what options are, what the alternatives are. So I ask you to think right now, are we better saying, forget it, give the money back, let them take it wherever they want to take it? Or are we better off looking at involving our businesses, involving our community and our residents who go through there 50,000 times a day, and looking at the alternatives, and then coming back and making, as many of you talked about, a more logical decision? And critical to me, and I have shared this with every single person I have spoken to, money cannot come out of our general budget. And doing this next step does not take money from the general budget. And I'm going to take a sidestep just for a moment, because I want you to fully understand why it is critically important to me that money not come out of the general budget. And that is because we're in a financial crisis, as most cities in the state of California, due to the CalPERS pension system. And with that, we, with two of our associations, our employee groups, we have imposed contracts that lower their compensation. And we have been working with two others. And the reason we're doing that is because CalPERS is taking more money from cities, including Corona, which is affecting our budget. And long-term being 5 to 7 years, we're in critical state. And the council recently directed the city manager to reduce every single department's budget for the coming year by 7%. And there's some other factors coming up that could hinder us in trying to survive as a city. But as I tell you that information about CalPERS and compensation for our employees and the 7% reduction, that money comes from the general budget. So I cannot, in good conscience, take any money from the general budget. That would not be fair to our employees. It would not be fair to our community. But doing this alternative where we could get some additional information, some facts, and get input from our businesses, business owners, and the community, that money does not come out of the general fund. So I'm comfortable doing that. I also want to comment on somebody said that the people have spoken, the businesses and the citizens. I know some businesses and some citizens have spoken. But I would have to say that overall, if I think of the citizens, the 50,000 commuters that go through there, including some of the employees that work over in there, and I'm not talking about Monster, now Alvord Unified, I'm talking about some of the other businesses. They're experiencing the traffic as well and the conflict with the rail. So I don't know, and I tried to reach out through Facebook, I don't truly think we've heard from all of this community. I don't know that we ever will. But again, getting that alternative can be beneficial to us, and we can engage more people. And then finally, an individual made a comment. Remember the people you were elected to serve and protect. And I tell you, that is the single most important to me. My decisions are based on what is best for this community, whether you're a resident, a property owner, a business owner, or you come here for work or enjoyment. I think of what's best for this community with my decisions each time. Thank you.
A couple of questions were asked, like, why are we back here? Because we continually need more information. We need to continually hear. We need to continually share back information. And it really is bothersome when some of you have said, pretend like we care. Well, I'm sorry, we do care. Whether you like it or not, you think we don't, some of you have your minds made up. We had our minds made up. All these accusations. I'm here to keep hearing. And very specific questions that I was asking to make sure, and Mr. Scott addressed a lot of those, that we had the businesses at the table. I sat and met with several business owners. That they are at the table, that we look at ways to make it easier if this project goes through for them to pull it back together and get their business going again. Because we care, we do. Some of you are not going to believe that, and I'm sorry that that's just what you're going to believe. We care about the businesses. You've seen that it's an economic part of our whole city, but it's a part. There's other areas. There's other projects And each one, we try and do the best job we can do for that project, the people involved, the people that are going to be affected by it. We had a resident that's concerned with the project that came up that lives, near the project. Every single person has an important words to say. You may not like to hear them, but their words are just as important as yours. And we need to hear all the words. That's why we're back here. One thing that just hasn't been said that those of you who have had the opportunity or made the opportunity to talk with me, and I think Don Fuller and Tom Richens both talked about legacy, which is critical. We have a legacy we're finishing living through that some of you probably don't know until I pointed out. Have you ever noticed when you drive down the 91, until recently, there was no landscaping? It was dirtier than other areas. You can go from Corona to Riverside and suddenly it's greener and it's cleaner. Now it's getting better. Part of that is, if you want to go on, previous council sued Caltrans. We were being spanked. We had a difficult time. That was how I got into transportation, was trying to mend relationships. The reasoning wasn't bad, that previous council, but the consequences, and that's why you have to look at the consequences. If we had the opportunity where Senator Roth and the Sleepy Woman, Sabrina Cervantes, really worked hard and brought that money for all these projects in Western Riverside County, and we decided to give it back, we better have a very good reason and made every effort, because our legacy is going to be that we will be having difficulty getting dollars for future projects. So when you sit there and point fingers at us, we have many pieces to look at. And our legacy is, if this doesn't go well, as it's been addressed, that's going to be our legacy. If we don't do it, you're hearing other ways it's going to be our legacy. We have had the opportunity to have a lot of transportation dollars brought to Corona. Granted, some of it isn't ones that we wanted because of the traffic, but at least we've had dollars. And we've had dollars within our city that we normally wouldn't have gotten. So when you can try and put yourself up here, and some of you out there are looking at running, make sure that you look at all pieces. You can't focus on the residents, you can't focus on the businesses that don't have a ownership directly being impacted, but they have impacts. We have businesses that I met with a group that work over on Estelle, which is just across the street from Food for Less, if you know where that is. They're wanting it because they have difficulties going out with trucks through the neighborhoods. So there's other people involved, and they may not be in the room today. They've been at past study sessions, or they don't want to get up and talk. There's people here. A lot of you didn't talk, and that's okay. But you're here, or you've made phone calls to somebody up here or one of the staff asking questions or expressing your concerns. So we do care. And I'm sorry if you feel that. It's a shame that threats have been made, and I'm sure some of you are going to fulfill those. That's your prerogative. It's a shame that it's come to that. But we have to look beyond what's in this room at everything and how it all is going to fall into place and impact. If we don't do this, what's it going to be in 2035 when we have doubled the number of trains and double the length of trains? You think it's bad now, how's it going to be then? So we will go the next few years and not affected those that are sitting there. I've talked about lowering the flood canal, I've talked to flood control, I've talked to Nelson. They're tired of hearing me begging to find other ways that we could do this without affecting that. I haven't anybody come up with another alternative that is feasible. And as I said, with the trains across, that flood control gets in our way, and the way we have to build it with BNSF. So we still have time to come with other alternatives, but I think that it was addressed is that we need to say, where do we go from here? You heard the consequences if we turn back the dollars. We're going to have long-term, and in 20 years, the consequences of trains increasing, traffic increasing, and of course, as I said, we were going to give back $84 million, and how's that going to affect for future monies into our area? If we build it, we will have some businesses that are going to have some effects from this, or big effects, some of them. We're going to have, people not wanting it. But in this case, I guarantee you there's going to be more people that aren't going to tell us they want it or don't want it. And then we have to guess. I appreciate each and every one of you coming. This is one of the largest stacks in my time sitting up here that we've had public speakers. And I'm glad you were all here. But we have to make a decision to move forward, whichever direction that is.
I'll make the motion to move forward. What would be the formal motion, Daryl? Because on here it says proceeding, I guess just proceeding with the McKinley grade separation project and putting out the RFP?
Yes, I would direct staff to move forward with design concepts, RFPs, and bid documents. for the
Okay,
project.
and as part of that, they will have interaction with the businesses. The engineers will come back and have some interface with the business and property owners.
And just as a point of reference, there will be business meetings, there will be community meetings, there will be plenty of meetings, but at the end of the day, what will come from this are bid documents that are actually sent out, bid opening, and then that will actually be on a council agenda. So you will see, as well the public, the final number, the final project, and everything else. So it's not like it'll vanish today and one day we'll wake up and there's an overpass. There's a number of steps that will go through it.
Is there a second before we have discussion?
Second.
Okay. I want some tracking of this, that it doesn't just disappear like you said. So when the conversations are happening, that we have the community knowing that we're being held accountable, that their participation is part of my strong reason I would support, the only reason I would support this. And if we don't have that, then I can't support this project. That we, in the process of looking at this, Nelson, on every way possible to saving the Shell gas station, if we can build in a way that that's not, there are ways of doing it. We have to look at ways that we can preserve what's there. We know we can't preserve everything, but working together, we can hopefully get to a point that at least they have a voice in the process, and they can see how we can, if they can come up with a suggestion, and if the engineers can put it together, then let's work together to make this project and not let it just be sended away. That's what I don't want to happen. I don't want it just to disappear.
You'll actually see it twice. The first,
And I want it more, we need an update on it, and
you can go to every single meeting. It's a public one. You're invited, Mayor. We'll schedule them, and it'll be on your calendar. Point is, the bid documents will actually come back for the RFP for design concepts, community engagement, and then once that is done, if it goes to bid, if you decide to move forward, there will be also the bid that you approve. So there's 2 public ones here, and there'll be a number of public meetings that we hold with members that are impacted.
okay, and I want those on, very visible on the website so that we can have it, and in the inner circles so that people are made aware of it. I didn't like hearing that some of the business owners weren't aware of this. That's our fault. We messed up on that, and we cannot.
No. So we hand-delivered documents, we mailed documents, and our friend the neighbor actually took his own documents. So there were plenty of invites to this, and a number of us all actually had phone conversations with some of the impacted people as well. I know they're government looking and they might get thrown away with the trash mail, but we were very clear about mailing and delivering again.
Is that to the property owners as well as the businesses?
Yes, because sometimes they're 2 different people. A lot of times in the bigger shopping centers, we send to the registered owner that comes from the tax roll as well as the business licensee, because we need them both here because it impacts them differently.
So those of you who claimed that you didn't, can you please let us know those addresses, and maybe there was... Okay, we'll do this after. This is my concern. I had all these people telling me they didn't receive it.
Okay.
Well, if we move forward, this is important that we make sure all the notifications and the involvement.
No, before we take a vote, I'd like 30 more seconds. I think we've proven today that your city council cares about what's going on in the city, okay? Well, just give me a minute, will you, please? Do you mind? Thank you. And that was not a dismissive wave, that was a bug. We have proven, I think that we have proven that what we want to do is we want to work for the betterment of the city. This is an incredibly, incredibly difficult thing, but we've been here for 3.5 hours. We've listened to, I've met with many of you personally, and I welcome to do it again. And we're not here to bulldoze down anything. No matter what some people say, we're not going to get out and bulldoze hundreds of restaurants or businesses. We're here to work with you because, quite frankly, we live here. Thank you.
Okay, there's a motion.
I want to clarify something before you vote. Because Daryl mentioned something about a process for awarding this, and I want to clarify the process, if that's exactly what you want me to do. Typically, we prepare the request for proposals, we send it out to different firms, all those interested in doing it. We receive those proposals, we have a panel of city staff and also other professionals from other agencies, select the firm, we then recommend award to a certain firm, and we bring that back to the city council for the award of that contract. That's a typical process. So that'll be the next time you'll see this before the council. And that's a public forum too. And in that RFP, we put in language to encourage innovation. So we'll have a number of firms put in proposals, and we encourage them to come up with
Okay,
innovative
before you
ways to
get
do
the
this.
proposals, you're going to have a meeting with the business owners to get an idea?
No, and that's why I want to clarify. We don't typically do that. If that's
Well,
what
I
you
think we
want,
can
I got to
change
clarify
that.
that.
I think you're hearing, the proposal is what
No, Madam Mayor, the proposal is to get an engineer on board that will interface with the businesses to help design it. There's no need to talk between now and then.
Okay.
Because we're
That's
just
part of their
asking.
contract.
Okay, so I just want to, we all are on the same page. So the proposal is, the first one you're talking is to get an engineer who we decide we're going to work with, who's going to turn around and then work with the businesses.
The
This-
proposal
this is
goes
just a
out,
process.
lays out the instructions to all of them to say what we're looking for. We want a firm that will come up with innovative ways to make this happen. And they submit their proposals, and they actually indicate, we think we can have this concept or that concept or that concept. Then a panel review these proposals, select the best qualified firm, and bring that back to the council. And in that document, we also require, you will have public meetings, you will have, you have to meet with the constituents and the residents out there, you have to meet with the business out there. We'll lay all that out in the contract.
Okay,
But the next time this comes to the council will be for the award of that contract
the contract,
to the engineering
the
firm,
engineer
who will
firm.
then start that process.
So nothing's happening except for looking for that person that's going to work with everybody to make,
That would be the next step.
Okay.
Once they come up with the concepts, they start working that out, and they'd eventually reach out to the businesses and start getting them involved with the design concept itself.
And
So
even
before the
if-
design's even approved, that would be part of it.
And even if they propose a couple of concepts with the RFP, they could still come up with an even different one once they get done, correct?
Correct, exactly.
Okay.
Can we also include, there was some people have come up here and said that they saw in city A, B, or C that they did it for $30 million and stuff. Is it okay if maybe those people get in contact with you so that you can contact that engineering firm to make sure that we're not missing?
Sure, they can
that-
contact me. We've already did that. Milliken, we actually reached out to them. We have
Okay.
their project, we had the scope of work.
Right.
We looked at why that job. In fact, our first study session,
Yeah.
I was thrilled because I thought we could do that for this project.
Great.
And BNSF was encouraging us to do it. We thought this could work. There was reasons why that project is different than this, though, significant reasons. And that's when we met with BNSF and find out why it was so much different and why this is.
that's when we learned about the ARC and the,
Milligan.
some of the other things with the flood, anyway.
For clarification's sake, Nelson, is it possible to put in the RFP a number of community outreach meetings with
Definitely,
businesses?
we want to do that.
Okay, and can you run that past us so that we're comfortable with that number? before you send it out? Is that possible?
I can do that.
Appreciate it.
Oh, I have one other technical question. If we have meetings with citizens/business owners, business people, how is that going to work with the Brown Act? Can we all go?
Well, they'd
Would they be coming
be
here?
regular public meetings.
Gonna have them here?
We've done that before.
Okay, cool, great. Thank you. Boy, I feel better now than I did 4 hours ago, I'll tell you that.
Is there, how do you?
Sorry. He's got to hit second.
I did already.
Okay. Oops. Now I've got to start over again.
All right.
Okay. I have 2 public comment cards. And I will make it clear that the public comment is not to be discussing the item on the agenda. That goes into having multiple times talking on the same subject, which was made very clear. No one wants that. You had your opportunity to talk on that subject. So this time, I have the 2 comments are not to be talking about things on the agenda. Joe Morgan?
I will confine my remarks to the process in this city as it plays out time and time again. If the business owners were not involved to the level.
Excuse me, Mr.
This
Morgan?
is about the
No.
process, and if you want
No.
to drag me out of here, drag me out of here.
Mr.
I don't give
Morgan,
a
I
crap
have
what you say.
asked you-
I do
I
not
have
give a crap
asked
what
you-
you say. If you want to arrest me, arrest me. Okay? Have a nice day. I'm going to talk about the process here in town, as I told you. So you do not involve people in your public process here. Your public meetings in this city are intended to get across what you want to get across. Your public process here has been shown time and time again is to inflict your will and your regional aims upon the residents and businesses of this city. Period. Over and over again. Can't be more clear about that. I've seen minds change or things discussed here in my several years of watching meetings here. 3 times. Okay? I saw you guys honestly have a discussion over Measure N, partly because I don't think you understood the ramifications that you'd be out of a seat. But I did see that. You guys did an honest job on that because you didn't know any different. None of us did. Okay? I saw, let's see, what was Measure N? I saw when you guys chickened out on the imposition for the general employees. I did see you change your mind then. That was interesting. And I saw Mr. Haley change his mind about dog chipping. That's it. That's the only time. Every other time I've been here, every other vote that you've done, you've decided what you wanted to do before you came in here. You told people how you're going to vote, you told people how you're going to vote, and you told people how you're going to vote
That's
on this
not
ahead
true.
of time. Well, you
I
know,
apologize, your
if
time.
it comes down, well, you know what? I thought you weren't supposed to discuss things with me in public
I
comment.
just said, I apologize, I was wrong.
Okay, so if I'm to trust the people that saw you say how you're going to vote, and you ask me who I'm going to trust, it's not going to be you. Because you did what you said you were going to do. And you did what you said you were going to do. And you did what you said you were going to do. So I don't want to hear you cry crocodile tears about the Brown Act, because you guys break that deal every day. You guys don't care. You've already decided. You've already gotten together. You know, and you basically just stalled this whole deal out till the first recall was done. Well, you may have heard that there's a well-funded effort this time. It's not being led by me. It's a more professional thing. But the amateur people got 4,000 and something signatures. So I'm pretty sure now with a lot of zeros behind it, there's going to be more. So I'm sure you guys have probably heard already. So this isn't a threat. You know, we did what we can do. You know, but you guys basically just stalled this out. So like I said, I hope the people in the orange shirts all live here so they can vote for you in the recall. Thank you.
Tom Richins?
Tom Richens, 1031 East Grand Boulevard. I have no desire to talk about the grade separation, so rest easy. I would like to talk about legacies. Legacies is a good subject. I listened to some comments from the dais on legacies, and one of you clearly doesn't understand what that means. So at no point is any of you accused of bringing down the Carnegie. That is absurd. At no point was any of you accused or even referenced of bringing down city urbanization or city renewal. At no point was the 91 blamed on you guys for it cutting across the Grand Boulevard. But let's set it straight, because who did it? Who authorized it? It was a city council, a Corona city council that you guys have joined. You went out of your way, you ran, you got elected by the people, and you joined that club. You had joined the city council. Their legacy is your legacy. You stand with those people. Win, fail, you join them. You join them with their failures, you join them with their victories. Maybe not privately, but collectively. The freeway to the 91 was brought upon by the Jameson family more than anybody. The Carnegie was brought on because it wasn't built right. The sister Carnegie in Ontario, by the contractor that built the one in Ontario and Corona, it's the same contractor, he didn't build it right. Leo Croonan pointed it out 2 years after the Carnegie was built. It's that simple. I ask the questions, I read the questions, and I deal in the facts. City urbanization was just a big mistake, plain and simple. But there were some things that could have came of it. Fire codes. We had buildings that were built next to each other that, should they burn, you could lose lives, you could lose businesses. A lot of these fire codes came because of city urbanization, separate the buildings. There's a lot to it. But when I have a council person tell me that I'm accusing him of legacy violations, it's wrong. It's not right. I don't appreciate it. And I will come and set the record straight. And you call me when you want to go get coffee. Thank you.
Tom, I just want to thank you for your historical, I appreciate those comments and giving us a history.
Thank you.
Any more public comments? I'll need you to fill out another blue card, but not right now. Just go ahead and speak, but when you're done, thank you.
So I know it's late, we've been here for over 5 hours, everybody wants to go home. And I appreciate the stirring, moving speech serving the people. And, you know, there's something called walking the walk and talking the talk, and you've made it very clear. But for you to turn this around and make it seem like you're the victims, like we're making threats, you know what? You guys are the real threats here to the community if you let this go on. Okay, I just want to let that be known.
Okay, is there anybody else? With that, we adjourn this meeting.